That is delicious. Finally, some good fucking food.
Hello, and welcome to The Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today we have a very special guest with us. Welcome,
Hello.
Eddie.
Hi, I am Eddie McCabe of a variety of different shows. I'm so glad to be here. I was on a road trip to a job interview in Connecticut, and I listened to literally every episode and was like,
thank you.
I got to my interview and I was just like, so how do I get on this show?
We're a big fan of your show, That Movie Show. I'm a big fan of that show. I love that. Watch that live. You know, like it's good stuff. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be talking about something special. Deshaun, could you introduce?
I would describe this as like comfort food entertainment.
Yeah, something that like when you go home and you're like, shut my brain the fuck off. This is exactly what I need to be able to get back to full strength.
There's something comfortable that you could put on anytime.
Yeah.
It could be while you're cleaning. It could just be like, I just had a tough day. I'm just going to lay down and just have a mild wide stare into the TV.
Exactly. So we're going to do that, and then at the end we're going to get into like dirty, guilty, bad pleasure movies. Like stuff where it's just like, hey, no one should know I watch this shit, but like I do, and I'm not bad. I'm not mad about it.
Uh-huh. It's gonna get weird.
It's gonna get weird. It's gonna get weird. I can't not admit that. You know, like we had the explicit thing on. Everyone knows it gets fucking weird up here.
Good. Good.
All right, Deshaun started off. Where we start?
We're going to start with movies.
Movies. So, comfort movies for you. What does that mean to you?
I feel like it's anything, again, like I had described before, that I could just put on and not have to worry about it. It's like, I don't really know what to watch.
So what's first when you get home and you're like, turn it on?
I could always put on something chill or lax. So I put like two movies on here. Either Sideways or like Dazed and Confused.
Sideways?
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti?
And the wine?
Yeah, and The Wives.
You introduced me to that movie. I definitely was not going to watch that movie because I was just like, is that a wine movie with Paul Giamatti in it? And Deshaun was like, yeah, you got to watch it.
But no. But yes.
Yeah, so Sideways, it took me a lot longer to watch Sideways because I saw the commercials for Big Fat Liar. And
yes,
and I was like, that blue guy, I want nothing to do with. And that carried me a lot further than it should have, if I'm being honest.
I feel like that was a big stain on his career. But what was the other one you said that
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused. Really? Okay, you're gonna hate me for this. I don't even like Dazed and Confused.
Why not?
I don't like it. I feel like when it gets serious, it gets kind of like, should have this gone this serious? You know, like when I feel like Dirty Dancing, it's motivated by its serious topic. When Dazed and Confused comes in, you're kind of just like, what? You're like, I was high a second ago, and now I'm not because what the fuck?
It doesn't really get all that serious, though. That's the thing. About the most serious thing it does is just like, I'm not going back to football. I'm not joining the team anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a trip.
We covered this on That Movie Show, and I remember watching it for the first time in like a long time. And I kind of agree. I don't think that it was... I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I think it was basically, it was before I lived high school, and then after I lived high school, and like after it, I was just like, oh, I'm not as nostalgic for this as I thought I was.
I can definitely see that. I think the draw is that it's just so laid back for me, and I tend to gravitate to stuff that's like really dialogue heavy because I love writing dialogue.
Yeah,
and it's just like so chill that I could just put it on.
Yeah, I feel that. that. Now, Eddie.
Oh, man. So there's a lot of stuff because I have a lot of... Like, it depends on my mood. So if I'm looking for a comedy, one of my favorite comedies is Basketball.
Yeah, I just watched that actually super recently. I really did, like a couple months ago.
I love that movie. That movie tickles me in ways that a grown man should always be tickled.
I have not seen basketball in a very long time.
It is a wild movie because, like, even like watching all of South Park and then watching it in like a modern context because I watched it now without I've seen all of South Park. You're just kind of like, wow, this was so awesome, even at the time,
Right.
And then it's like it's still good now,
Right.
Like,
Oh, well, and it's funny because if you look at the movie, part of the like scope of the movie is very relatable now, where it's like how much athletes are getting paid, and the corporate sponsorships and stuff, and kind of like driving down to like the fundamentals of like why we like sports like originally.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And then the comedy. I just love South Park. I grew up on South Park, so their humor. Matt
absolutely.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Yeah.
They're just fantastic.
yeah, they're geniuses. I've never seen Book of Mormon, but I hear it's got the same kind of energy where it's just like
Book of Mormon is fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it was great. I saw, in a span of like 3 months, I saw Hamilton, Book of Mormon, and SpongeBob SquarePants the musical.
That's a triple threat.
They were
That's a
awesome.
trilogy.
All of them were awesome. But yeah, they were very good. They were very, very different. But
South Park is always one of those things where I fall in and out of it constantly.
Yeah.
But then when I'm in the mood for it, it's just like, well, it's a good thing I have 4 seasons to catch up on, and I
Right.
just go through it. And then I just leave it alone for years, and I keep
and
repeating
then you
that
come
cycle.
back. Yeah. I mean, because like you end up hearing all this stuff. It's like, oh, and then like they had PC Principal come in, and it's just like this endearing character that was just so funny. Soto Sopa, which is so topical. They do a great job with if you've never seen it, 7 Days to Air.
Yeah,
which is
I love that.
The documentary about how they produce an episode of South Park. It's really great, and it's definitely worth checking out. So if I'm in a mood for a comedy, basketball is definitely where I go. If I'm looking for something a little heavier, I'm either going to go with Kill Bill 1 and 2. I package them together.
Ooh, yeah.
Or Terminator.
Are you saying the whole
Bloody
bloody
Affair.
cut?
The
Like
whole Bloody Affair.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
It is one movie. So I put it as one movie.
That's definitely my argument. Usually when I say like, oh, what's your favorite Tarantino film? I just say Kill Bill collectively.
Yeah.
If you had to put a gun into my head and to like pick one as if they're separate movies, I usually lean towards Volume 2.
See, I lean towards Volume 1 if I have to have that, but that's mostly because I'm a huge Kung Fu fan.
Yeah, and that's the more like action heavy one.
That's the Kung
I
Fu.
love Volume 2 because it kind of expands on the story a little more. I love the training stuff of like Pai Mei. And I love the character stuff at the end.
Yeah.
Well, and it's much more of a Western. So if you're into
absolutely.
Westerns, you're
Yeah,
definitely going to feel the
exactly.
second one a little bit more. Or Terminator 2. Terminator 2,
Yeah,
which is arguably one of the greatest sequels ever
It
made.
is. It is. I would say that's like if you're ranking sequels, it's got to
It's
be one
top
of the
5.
best. Like,
Because you're talking Godfather Part 2,
yep,
Terminator 2,
yep.
Empire Strikes Back,
Aliens too.
Aliens 2, or
just
Aliens.
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 Sorry.
You know what I mean? And then you can kind of make a case for like Toy Story 2.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, you gotta give it up. Gotta give it up.
But yeah, Terminator 2, that's great. That movie. Mwah!
And I think I've brought this up before. I'm the weirdo who I think 2 is objectively better than the first one, but I prefer the first one and tend to go back to most of it. Alien instead of aliens because I like the horror aspect.
Yeah.
And Terminator 1 is basically a slasher movie at the end of the day.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, it also has the iconic line of "I'll be back." You know what I mean? And then
But I also just love how dirty and grimy the first Terminator is.
oh yeah, you look at the first Terminator movie, and that's a B movie.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a B movie.
It's just like, hey, a robot comes from space. Like,
this robot showed up and is just hunting this woman named Sarah Connor. He murders like 3 of them before he gets to the one he's trying to kill. It just, he did it. He tried. That robot,
yeah,
he tried.
he worked his ass off, but
just did in the end. He just,
and that happens for so many more movies. What are we on now? Is Terminator? Are we 6 or 7 now with the latest Dark Fate? Right,
Salvation, Genesis, Dark Fate.
7.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And none of them good, other than 1 and 2. Like if you had to argue, like even some of them are just passable.
I have like a bit of the tiniest of soft spots for 3 because it's not great.
No.
As an action film on its own, it's fine. Like, it's serviceable entertainment. Has a really good ending, a better ending than it deserves.
It definitely, like, saves itself from being abysmal garbage to being, like, meh with that ending. Because
that ending is heavy.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, if the rest of this movie had even a sprinkle of the same kind of nuance, we'd be in a much different situation.
Yeah.
Because
I feel that.
I liked the idea of the female Terminator. I liked the idea of Arnold Gunn coming back to being the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that was, like, there were parts of it that kind of worked, but the issue with that movie, much like a lot of the Terminator franchise, was it got too big, so we needed to, like, lean into the things that made the first two popular.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
like,
they don't know where to go, even.
Especially 2. It really leans into 2. It's just like 2 again, but worse.
Yeah, because the problem is like 1 is about Sarah Connor. And we're focused on Sarah Connor.
Yep.
And it's about her. The 2 is about...
Which the last 2 have tried to bring back. I feel like they've tried to be like, hey, we all know Sarah Connor's the real star here. Like,
right.
You know, like, it's not John. Like, because they tried to make John happen with the Christian Bale and...
Salvation. Well,
they started with 3 to try to make John like the thing.
The problem with Salvation was you ruined the twist in the trailer.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that... Sam Worthington, you find out that he's a Terminator in the trailer of the movie, makes the entire confrontation between the two of them.
I know, right?
Like,
you're just like, oh, okay.
You
I
undercut
see that movie.
Right, you undercut the emotional weight of the movie. Whereas if you didn't know any of that going in and you actually discovered it, it would have been a better movie,
right?
You know, so
because
I mean,
if you were going to do another Terminator film, all anyone ever wanted was just give me the war. I just want to see the war.
Right,
and then we got to it, and you're just like, this is a lot less interesting than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, right? You're just like,
first of all, we all know the real Terminator 3, and that is Terminator the Ride at Universal Studios.
I thought you were either going to say that or the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Sarah Connor Chronicles are pretty good. They're pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's not bad.
Yeah. But Terminator the Ride,
I remember,
is definitely the best Terminator 3 that we got.
Hold on.
Have you ever been on it?
No.
Okay, so I
think it's gone now.
Is that Universal?
It was at Universal Studios in Hollywood and Orlando.
Nice.
I think the only one left is in Singapore.
Of course. So I hear every theme park in Singapore is better, and now it's very empty.
Yes. But
tickets going down.
Yeah, so you can get there for a steal. Don't worry, just don't eat the bat soup. But it was you go into a Cyberdyne building, and basically you're there for like a prototype test, and basically you get hijacked by Sarah Connor, John Connor, and the Terminator, and they're like, you need to get out of here now. And then they're like, don't worry about it, it's perfectly fine. And then you go into a theater and you sit in like a seat, and a 3D movie plays where basically Sarah Connor and John Connor are like coming to stop this presentation because this is the birth of like the Terminator, like the endoskeleton, the end of it. And you end up going through time. But the cool thing about it is that they have live actors that come in. Like, you're watching this presentation, and then an actor playing Sarah Connor, like, rappels down from the ceiling, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque actor comes barreling through the TV on a motorcycle. Watch it. It's on YouTube. You can definitely find it. But they end up going back in time and blowing up Skynet and saving everything.
It sounds like the Back to the Future ride, where you're just like, oh, that sounds so good. Why can't I ride that? Like,
you missed out on both of those.
Yeah.
I went to... The last time I was ever in Florida was around, I want to say like 2006.
Oh, wow, long time ago.
Yeah, I was a kid. And
I went there last week.
I did go on the T2 ride as well as like the Back to the Future ride.
Man.
And they both changed my life.
Yeah.
God damn you guys.
And I think that was like right after we left. I think that's when they got rid of Back to the Future.
Yeah, because it's now Simpsons.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes. Yeah. I saw that.
It's also really funny because now Universal Studios, between the Simpsons land and Marvel land, most of the Orlando theme park is owned by Disney.
It's wild. You're just like, oh no, like
that's
they
ominous.
did not plan this out. Like,
well, I mean that's a podcast for a different day. But Universal have not planned out their theme parks well. All of the major attractions that they have, they don't own the rights to because Paramount.
I went last year and I was so just like, oh, you can't use this whole part of the park. Oh, Jesus, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, because you have the whole Marvel side, and you're just like, cool, so you're holding on to this for how long? You know, like, what do you do? You know,
well, the funny part is that you look at that, and all of the gift shop stuff, all that money goes to Disney, right?
Yeah.
Because they own Marvel.
Yeah.
But it's like, even the Harry Potter stuff, which is the cornerstones of their theme parks,
yeah,
it's owned by Paramount.
Yeah.
Universal does not own Harry Potter.
Yeah,
So
this
it's
isn't
like-
Paramount Land, which is a different theme park.
It's a very different theme park.
Paramount people.
It was
Yeah.
a thing.
They owned Kings Island and Knott's Berry Farm and stuff like that.
Can you imagine being like Tomb Raider, the ride?
Where the hell's the Friday the 13th ride?
Yeah.
Yeah, they blew that up.
Dude.
So my thing that I can always come to is I'm a kaiju guy. I'm a big guy where I like if I just want to like brain melt for a while, I put on a monster movie. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like I want a big monster. My thing I love about it is the filmmaking in making a monster movie. It's like, it's really cool when you can like see the set that they built, that they took the time to do, you know, like I love
and
that
then proceed
stuff.
to destroy it.
And then blow it up, you know, with a guy in a suit, you know, like I love that shit. And I'm even a huge fan of the new Godzilla films. It's such like a...
Look, man, King of the Monsters... I've said this before. King of the Monsters and Knives Out were the most fun I had at the movies this past year.
I argue that King of the Monsters is the best Godzilla film because first off, they destroy Boston. Awesome.
Sure, yeah.
You're like, hey, John Hancock, going to hell. And then it's like, and it's also the best looking Godzilla movie, which like if you're a Godzilla fan, you're always just like, oh yeah, that's even better than the last one, you know, like you're like, oh sick, yeah.
I did a whole thing where I watched like every single Godzilla film, at least the theatrical ones, and I even watched the TriStar one. And going into King of the Monsters with all the other ones, it's just like, okay, yeah, King of the Monsters has problems, but it suffers from the exact same problems that all of these movies do.
Like, you're like, oh, do you mean there's lots of humans talking and not doing anything?
Not doing anything?
Like,
Is there a really ham-fisted, sloppy environmental message? It's very on brand.
The only one that doesn't do that is Final Wars, and everyone knows that's the most entertaining Godzilla movie because the humans do kung fu, the monsters do kung fu everywhere, everybody wins. Like, you know, like...
Yeah, the people that are casual fans of Godzilla movies, specifically, have the same problem that casual fans of pro wrestling have, where it's like, oh, I want everything to be a billion flips and all this other nonsense. And it's just like, yeah, but we have to build a movie around this.
Yeah.
We have to build a movie around it. And so it's like, my favorite Godzilla movie has to be the one where it's Japanese Godzilla versus the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Yeah,
Final Wars. That's Final Wars.
That's my favorite one.
Favorite moment, maybe in movie history. Like,
that's so funny.
They did not pull their punches. Like, the very next Godzilla movie that came out after the TriStar one was them just being, like, already referencing the American version, making it canon, I guess. It's just like, wasn't there a monster in New York? Wasn't that Godzilla? It's just like, that's what they say, but our experts think differently. They might as well have looked at the cameras like,
no.
You.
The answer's no. No, it was not.
The fact that they bought the rights to the TriStar version in Final Wars just to immediately, like, kill it.
Yeah, right.
Because it comes on screen for, like, 2 seconds.
And he kicks it and then blows him up in the Sydney Opera House. It's one of those just beautiful moments where you're just like, yes.
Yeah. Oh, man. So there's a thing that I do. So one of the shows that I do is called New Age Insiders, right? Which is it's a pro wrestling themed show. And part of what we do is we go to WrestleMania every year.
Nice.
And WrestleMania is the biggest event in pro wrestling. And all of the other pro wrestling companies basically descend on whatever city and they hold shows.
Nice.
So there's just all these kind of shows. My favorite show to go to every single year is a wrestling promotion called Kaiju Big Battle.
I've heard about this.
In which Kaiju Big Battle is a nonsensical show where people dress up in kaiju costumes, they put fake cities in the middle of the ring, and they wrestle. And it's at 1 o'clock in the morning every time.
That's fantastic.
And it's the best.
I think this might be my in to pro wrestling. I think I have an in now because that sounds like everything I want to watch.
Just YouTube
that
Kaiju Big Battle. It's fantastic.
The Coolidge Core Theater, to tie it to Boston, Coolidge Core Theater, before they show Godzilla every year, they do a sort of thing like this, where they have, like, employees dress up in, like, 5 or 6 different costumes and just fuck up a city and each other, and it's awesome. But I'm sure it's even better with real wrestlers. Because, like, you know, it's employees of a movie theater. they haven't seen the sun in days, man.
Yeah,
Like, you know, like they had to watch all the Oscars.
Yeah, they had to watch all of them. But yeah, it's definitely hopefully. So SummerSlam is in Boston this year,
really,
which is August, and so hopefully they'll come and they'll do a show that weekend. If they do, we're going because it is a blast.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'm there. That sounds incredible. So, is that our transition to TV? Because, like, would you say that's what you always turn to is wrestling?
That's one of them. It's weird because there's so much out there, and it's like, you cover something.
Yeah, there really is.
It kind of becomes a job a little bit. So in recent years, it went from being that kind of escape to like, something I don't watch. You know what I mean? Like when I don't have to.
That makes sense.
But there's so many fun things out there. A bunch of my friends wrestled for WWE's like lower tier. Ooh. So they have like a developmental territory called the promotion called NXT.
Oh, okay.
And so I watched that. That's now on. They just got a TV deal recently. They're on.
Really?
They're on USA on Wednesdays.
Nice.
And so like a bunch of my friends, like people that like were wrestling around the New England area, they're a huge deal there.
That's cool.
So it's like it's fun watching your friends like succeed at a higher level and stuff like that. And then there's a bunch of other promotions out there. AEW's brand new and that's pretty fun. And then WWE has a billion shows.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Like that. I mean, that's it. Like I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but it's just because I wasn't exposed to it as a kid. It's kind of like I'm not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, and people will hate me for saying that, but it's just like I just missed a boat. It was just one of those things where it was just like I just missed it, and like my little brother's into it, but it was something that I was not.
Yeah,
and I'm not against it or anything. Like
I feel like we're
I'm not one of those guys where like it doesn't look real. Yeah. I'm usually like, when I'm sitting down, I'm like, hit that dude, like I'm just like, let's do this.
I feel like wrestling had just missed me, and I feel like anime just got to me first.
And that's basically what ends up happening is like
that sums up the show basically.
Like Dragon Ball Z just got to me first,
right?
Like, nothing wrong. You got to find your punch-in somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Eventually, you're gonna find your punchy show.
Yeah,
and you just got to figure out where it is. 'Cause, like I ended up finding anime later, and the reason is like I was like flipping through TV, and then back in the 90s, the NWO was this huge thing, and they were the bad guys, and they were this gang, and they were beating up everybody.
Yeah.
And then Sting, who was this character who dressed like the Crow, and he would hang out in the rafters of the arena, and then on like a zip line, he would like descend down, beat everybody up, and then like ascend back up, and I was like, this is nonsense and I love it. You know what I mean? And so like you end up kind of like needing to kind of hit it at that certain apex, and because it was just like that and Power Rangers kind of like came in.
Power Rangers
we're
a
big Power Rangers fans, so like no question.
It's been funny. My co-host from the New Age Insiders, he recently bought on eBay a unopened Dragon Megazord from the mid-90s, and he's been texting me for 3 days, going back and forth, being like, "Should I open it? I should open it. I don't want to open it. I should open it, but I don't want to open it."
He's like, "I bought it.
I bought it.
It's mine.
I spent at least $150 on this." But yeah, so it's funny because you end up finding your punchy show, and that's it ends up just kind of hitting all of those senses of like flashing lights, big huge spectacle, big muscly men, like
part of a balanced breakfast.
Part of a balanced boy breakfast.
I was a big Batman the Animated Series kid when I was growing up, and I think that informs a lot of like what we did and do. But yeah, I feel like anime is a good point for TV.
Yeah, with TV, it's definitely for me. It's not what you would expect, because you would expect me, he's like, oh, shonen, anything with the punching. Any like slice of life romance anime I'm also super into as like comfort food. I had told you like a couple weeks ago, it's like, dude, I just like binged like 3 of these in a row. Just like any wholesome content. Just like Fruits Basket,
so
Kaguya-sama, Clannad, because I'm such an edgy buzzkill 90% of the time. So the fact that I'm like secretly romantic is hilarious.
It's so true. Deshaun's usually brooding in his room, so to him to be like, "Oh yes, put on that wholesome content."
He's like, "Oh, this is so cute.
I want to see that love and dove." Yeah. Like
3 in a row a couple weeks ago. One of them was like the Fruits Basket remake.
Yeah.
Super into that. Kaguya-sama was a new one that just came out. It was up for Anime of the Year.
Yeah, I hear that one's great. Actually,
it's hilarious. I don't know why. It's just one of those things where I could just put on, and plus they're never more than like 12 episodes, so I can always just be like, hey, look, I finished 5 series.
So I would say that when we're talking comfort things, there's 2 things that I always go to. When I'll talk about the anime first because we're talking about anime. Mm-hmm. I usually will have a long-running show, and I will attach to it and just go. And it starts with a non-anime show, Star Trek. It starts with my comfort food used to be, I went through every fucking Star Trek. And let me tell you... Except Enterprise, because fuck Enterprise. I don't need that shit in my life. I don't need that negativity in my life. That's all I say about Enterprise. I don't need that negativity. And I really love Star Trek, and it's one of those, my parents is Trekkies, they came from sort of Trekkies, it's one of those things where it's passed down, and and it wasn't, I didn't hit into it until later, but that led me into watching it, I had to have a show that was long, and that brought me into Dragon Ball, and then, and now I'm in Star Wars land.
Yeah, you're in Clone Wars, you just need that show to just be able to go to and put on while you're just playing your Switch on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. You need to get both in.
Yeah, well, that's definitely, when you talk about comfort, that's the type of thing that I always look at, because you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Right? When it's something that I can just put on in the background, I don't have to totally pay attention to, but I can definitely pay attention to. I recently watched all of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
So
we did the episode. And it's one of those things where I've never seen it before, and I was so just this shit's crazy. I was just damn. I want more.
It was weird. Rewatching Dragon Ball was definitely odd. I was just there.
Oh yeah, you're there's a lot of baby dick. I don't think we needed all this baby dick.
He's naked a lot. So I don't know why we needed to be naked.
I keep saying that. I'm I don't know why he thought that was so damn funny. I don't often think that's funny. And I would say
kids
never.
Kids have
I would
no
say
shame.
that's never.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. There was so the end of that show was a chore to get through, where it was just and now the castle's on fire, and it's just what?
Yeah, that whole filler arc at the end, before you get to the actual wedding.
Yeah, it's just I didn't need this. I didn't need this. These 5 to 8 episodes were a chore to get through.
Yeah, in the manga, it was really tournament over, wedding, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not even, we're done. We're moving on to Raditz stuff.
Yeah, we're adding a Z for some reason.
Yeah, the Z was only added in the anime. That's the thing. In the manga, from
it was
Goku meeting Bulma all the way up to Buu, it's all just Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball. Until Super.
Which I haven't gotten to yet.
Oh, okay. So you should get in Super, because I did that. I had to finish Super before I moved on to my weird Star Wars phase I'm on right now.
Right.
But
there's
Super.
But there's a specific way to watch Super. That's the problem.
Yeah, there is a specific way, and Deshaun has gone over it several times, and we won't say it here, so go to the episode. But Super is fantastic. It really was for me. I was this is better than GT in the retrospect.
I hated GT.
I had a good time with GT because I was just kind of I know it doesn't matter. I don't know.
GT's always been the black sheep. I think GT is fine for what it is. I think Dragon Ball's produced way worse than GT. I would rather sit through GT than some of the lesser movies.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but those are the movies are. It feels like you could take it or leave it when it comes to that. For the most part, I know that Super. I'm not 100% sure how they all tie in, but I know that you need to watch the Resurrection of F after so many episodes and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So I do know that aspect of it, but none of the other shows and Tree of Life doesn't matter.
Tree of Life.
Tree of Life doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
You know what I mean? The Garlic Jr. movie doesn't.
Hey, I love that one.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. And so it's just and then GT came along and it was just you know what? I didn't need Goku to be a kid again. That wasn't
I wasn't missing that, but at the same time, I at my thing I had already... So I watched it weird. I watched Dragon Ball Z, and then I went back to Dragon Ball, and then I went to GT. So I was just like, kid Goku, and then he grew up, and then they're like, back down. And you're just like, all right. And for me, it was kind of like, okay, but I guess... otherwise it's just kind of like, oh, I did not need this.
It felt a lot in the same way I feel about like how Marvel, the comic book series, like the comic book company handles Spider-Man, where it's just like, so we had all of this growth, we had all of this character development, and then we're like, nope, you're back to a kid. And it's just like, oh,
that's a particular pain. That's a particular...
I rage quit at New Day. All right? Brand New Day. No, not One More Day. The one after.
Brand New Day.
Brand New Day. Because I loved One More Day. I loved the Mephisto I can take your love away, or I can save Aunt May. I can do this, that, that was fun. But then for him to be like, I'm gonna be a kid again and save Aunt May, it's just like, oh, we didn't learn anything.
Yeah, we didn't learn. Wait, no.
No, you were like a person and like working with Tony Stark and like you were like finally like the hero you were supposed to be.
But that's sort of the drawback of iconography.
Oh god.
Is that people will be like, cool, growth, but then they'll be like, this isn't my Spider-Man. I grew up with Spider-Man and he's in high school. And those people usually went out for some reason.
It's just Spider-Man. It feels like everybody else can like grow and be a person except for him.
I think we're better.
Even Miles Morales does better growing.
We're definitely in a better place with Spider-Man than we used to do. Right after that happened.
Yeah, well, because we hit the reset button. So eventually we're going to hit the reset button again. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean?
Because everyone had a conniption over the Superior stuff. You and I were big fans of it.
I was a huge fan of Superior.
Yes. When Doc Ock took over.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was fun. It was a blast.
Yeah. It's just, God, it's the same thing. Harry Potter annoys the fuck out of me for the same reason, where it's just like, Harry Potter is a bitch.
But you could say the same thing for our good friend Luke.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker is a bitch.
Right. But at least Luke, grows. And I'm not talking about,
exactly.
I'm not talking about, 7, 8, 9. I'm not talking about that Luke. I'm talking about the Luke from 4, 5, 6, right? And he was just he's terrible for a lot of it. He's just one of those characters where all awesome stuff happens around him.
Yeah.
But at the end of Return of the Jedi, he's like, no, I am a Jedi. I am here.
Yeah.
I'm basically supposed to be the beacon of all things good, so that the Emperor is the beacon of all things evil, and Darth Vader can actually be the person that brings balance to the Force. So, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because Return of the Jedi ends up kind of, reshifting the story back to Vader.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is ultimately who the prophecy is about.
Yeah.
So it's so I don't necessarily
I've always liked that. Right. Luke is not the answer to the prophecy. It's always been Anakin. They were never wrong about it. They just were like, don't look at the master!
Yeah, right.
He's not showing any red flags at all.
No.
But that's the entire Clone Wars series. We were talking about watching Clone Wars because I'm in Clone Wars is my comfort show, and then I'm in Rebels. Clone Wars is just don't look at Anakin's red flags. Don't look at him.
Yeah.
No, not. He's a general now. Don't look at him.
He's the chosen one, guys.
Yeah,
we're
he's
good.
The chosen one.
We're all good.
Yeah. My favorite thing is somebody accuses the Jedi Order of being a violent, militaristic order, and he answers that by igniting another lightsaber and then attacking her without any words. He's just like, boom, and then attacks her, and you're just like, yup. That should have been a red flag.
He's an evil space wizard. Yeah, we knew this from Jump Street. Look, is it still weird at the end of episode 1 that Padme and Anakin look at each other yo, we gon' fuck.
We gon' fuck.
It's that's still weird. You should have known then. You should have known then that this 10-year-old was looking at this 15-year-old being like, I'ma hit it. And then even weirder when we find out that Amidala doesn't really age the same rapid space that Anakin does.
You're just like, wait, what?
It's look, here's the thing. I know I know that it's probably like a space thing where it's like, yeah, she might live to like, if he didn't force choke her to death, but she might have lived to be like 4,000. Like, I don't, Yoda's like 1 billion years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? So aliens age differently, right? I get it. But somebody definitely needed to look at
Senator Organa has been the same age forever, though.
Right.
Like Leia's dead.
Yeah,
he never ages. So you're
Yeah.
just like, wait, what are these species of humans? Are they human?
Yeah.
You're like, what are we doing, Lucas?
But it's just like somebody needed to look at it and be like, yeah, you guys, like, it's weird because she's like still like 14, but you're like now 30. I don't know. Also, it shouldn't have been Hayden Christensen. It always should have been Channing Tatum.
Wait, no.
Channing Tatum.
Wait.
If you would have told me that years ago, I would have been like, what is the matter with you? But I've kind of come around on Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum should have been Anakin Skywalker. He would have at least looked the part.
Either that, or they really should have just made Obi-Wan the main focus.
Yeah.
So, the other thing, to get back a little bit on topic, because I feel like we got wide there.
Yeah, we did. I was a boat town.
It all comes back to Star Wars every time.
Yeah, Star Wars every time.
Can't escape it.
My other comfort food, and this is a thing that it's mostly my wife, but also me, is we rewatch The Office, Parks and Rec, I guess New Girl's in the roster, and like it's just one of those things that like it's always on at some point, just as background noise.
Sitcoms tend to be that for a lot of people, I notice.
Yeah.
I've never watched The Office.
Really?
And I feel like that's something I should have said.
Oh.
I can't get into it.
It was something that... Okay, so I did not like The Office when I was catching the occasional episode. When I was catching the occasional episode, I was like, they're mean. I don't get it. I don't like that it's awkward, But then when you watch from the beginning and kind of watch their growth and watch the characters, that's where I realized I fell in love with the show. Is that there is this weird growth and not growth of these characters that like they actually have and that's I've watched it God knows how many times. Mary's just, sometimes she finishes the last episode and puts on the next one, and I'm just like, oh no. And we're never starting it again.
It feels like from the episodes that I've watched, it feels like you're walking into a new work environment, right? And it takes a little while for you to get into the lay of the land.
Yeah,
and then
feel that.
And then once you kind of like a work environment, right? Eventually you get indoctrinated into the work environment and you're in on the in-jokes, right?
Yeah,
so I do get it. I do understand why people like it, just not really for me.
I understand. Are you a Parks and Rec fan?
No.
So,
I love my comfort show, my comfort sitcom is How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, so
I have a friend who's into that too, but it always tends to be
someone has huge How I Met Your Mother fan.
Someone has their sitcom
until the end, and he lost it.
Well, the problem is that show was fantastic, and it just didn't stick the landing.
No, and it's sad.
It's really sad because
it's kind of like Game of Thrones, where you're like, "Wow, what a great run! Oh, Jesus Christ!" You're like, "What did we do here?"
Well, the problem is and there's a problem that I have with TV and movies and all this stuff, and this show is kind of a perfect place to kind of talk about this, is there are diehard fans of something, and then there are casual fans of that something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And more often than not, and I understand from like a production standpoint, like my day job is like a freelance television producer, right? So I understand from like a business standpoint that it's like, oh, I'm going to make more money by pleasing the most people.
Yeah.
Right? So playing to the casual ultimately is the smarter choice.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side to that argument is that we've seen with Marvel, well, if you're actually true to the source material and you're true to the characters, the casuals will follow.
Yeah.
If you have the backing of the diehards. And so, for How I Met Your Mother, these diehard fans, much like myself, were like, we need to cross this finish line.
Yeah.
And look, spoiler for How I Met Your Mother.
If you haven't seen it, like, I guess.
If you haven't seen it, it's on you. So, like, it's been over for, like, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, seriously.
Right, it's on you. The fact that the mother dies, and we're kind of talking about it in a post-mortem sense, makes a lot of sense, holds a lot of emotional weight, and that's okay. The fact that you then reframe it to be like, Ted really just wanted to be with Robin the whole time.
And you're just like, oh.
No. We spent literally 7 seasons talking about how these two people were incompatible together. And for that to be the end of it, betrayed everything that as a fan, you're like, oh, this is...
My other problem with How I Met Your Mother, I mean, Neil Patrick Harris is a highlight. Jason Segel is so damn good in that show. I've watched all that show. I love that. I did love it when I was watching it. But Ted is a Ross character. Like my wife's guilty pleasure is Friends, and I hate Friends because Ross is the fucking worst. Yeah. Like if there's a character I don't give 2 fucks about in the world, it's Ross fucking Geller. And Ted has some Ross energy. He doesn't have it fully, but he has that just bumbling into another girl, it's kind of energy, and you're just like, wait, no, stop. Like,
him, Ross, and then Vinny Chase from Entourage. They all suffer. They're all the same archetypes where it's like, look, I need you as a character to just basically be a blank slate. Yeah. So that you can be a lightning rod to the far more interesting characters around you.
True.
Right?
True.
I need, Vinny Chase, I need you to be this blank slate so that I can have Ari Gold and Turtle and Johnny Drama all be very entertaining around you, and your personality is going to shift from person to person. It's the same thing where it's like, oh, we're going to get the best friend emotional weight with Ted. We're going to get the best friend emotional weight with Jason Segel and Marshall, so he can do all that buddy stuff. But then he can also be the playboy that goes along with Barney's weird schemes. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he doesn't really have this personality of his own. And he's the least likable character. And you see it from time to time. And Ross is another example where it's just like, there's so many fun and interesting people around him that his personality is able to just kind of attach itself. Another sitcom of mine that is really just kind of here, and it did stick the landing, was The Good Place.
So I have... see, that's funny that you like The Good Place, but you don't like Parks and Rec and The Office, because I was going to bring up that it's the same guy.
Here's
Here's the thing. Interesting.
I've been on The Good Place's side. I've been singing its praises this whole time, trying to convince these two about it.
I started watching it. I did like it. It's one of those things where I watch so many shows, I get lost in my shows.
It was one of those things where, because you're really into Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. I am really into
I like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it came at a time after I had just rewatched all of The Office and Parks and Rec, and so I'm just like, this is kind of the same thing. It's just cops now. I like the fact that The Good Place is like, wow, he's really going for something here. And I thought The Good Place really stuck its landing.
Yeah, the thing with The Good Place is, and something that I absolutely love, and British television does this very, very well, and American television should be able to learn from it, is that it had a plan. Yep. This was the plan. We are going to do this. It's going to take this long, and that's it. Done. And, we didn't have a lot of filler episodes that, hey, we're going to have 15 episodes that just in the middle of a season that is supposed to have a ton of emotional weight. Flash. That all of a sudden we're just going to take a break from all the important stuff that's going on and do 5 episodes of nonsense and then get back to it. It was like, no, everything means something. Even if this episode might on the surface not mean something, there's going to be a little bit of a tidbit that'll feed into the grander story. And it stuck the landing. It stuck the landing 100%.
I think it definitely earned calling its episode chapters.
Yeah, again, and that's something that British television does a lot, where it's just like, look, here's the deal. This is how, Luther, this season is 4 episodes, and that's the story.
Right? They know when to just stop.
Right.
Sherlock did not know when to stop.
Sherlock only had 4 seasons.
It felt like it should have stopped.
Well, that also feels because it's like, oh, it's still super popular, and we have Benedict Cumberbatch, so we might
That's
as well
kind
do
of it. They're like, we don't exactly have Martin Freeman, but we got Benedict Cumberbatch.
You know, and so that one I excuse a little bit also because it's like there's so much source material.
Oh yeah, it really
you know
is.
What I mean?
It really does. Yeah, it's kind of like, but it's like the Dracula series. Like they did a good job of just being like,
yeah, just 3 episodes. Episode 3 was weird. Did you ever watch the BBC Dracula? It was interesting.
I saw the billboard though, right? Was that the billboard where it was like
the stakes through
the stakes and the sunset? And
yeah, that was a really cool.
It's just one of those things where like, if you like Moffat and Gatiss and the way they did Sherlock, and you want to see how their sensibilities apply to Dracula, give it a shot.
Okay,
but it does kind of get weird by the end of it.
Of course. Dracula's weird.
Yeah, it's a hard topic because it's like it's supposed to be sexual, it's supposed to be powerful, it's supposed to be dark, and you're just kind of like, how do I cover this? Francis Ford Coppola trying to do Dracula was our best bet, and he still fucked that up.
Right.
And
Keanu tried.
Yeah,
and I love Keanu.
I really like the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula film. It's not great, but I just love the amount of like love and care and attention to it, even if it is a little clumsy at times.
Yeah.
And Keanu as Jonathan Harker's just like, Keanu, please stop.
Look, Keanu Reeves is an amazing actor. The only thing is that you have to. He needs to be in a certain role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
No, it's true.
Because
it's absolutely
when you
true.
put him in Dracula and like Keanu, I need you to do a British accent. He's just like, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. Keanu, I need you to play an ex-Ohio State quarterback that's going to try and stop bank robbers. Got it. No problem. It's Johnny Utah.
Yeah, it's true though. It's like you got to be in the right role.
Got to be in the right role.
Like,
right tool for the right job.
I feel like it's like at certain times people can turn into character actors. I feel like Bruce Willis is one of those guys where you're just like, what do you do with Bruce Willis at this point other than like
Bruce Willis is good when he cares.
Yeah. Look, Bruce Willis, you give him like $1,000, he'll show up, be in one scene of your movie, and you can put him on the poster. That is literally Bruce Willis's filmography right now. Is go through Netflix. They'll type Bruce Willis. There'll be 15 movies that you can watch him in that he is in one scene, and that's it. But he's on the poster, like he's a main character.
Yeah, he's pushing it.
You know,
but
he's
when
like
he does
white
care,
Danny Trejo,
which isn't often.
Which did you hear that he is now the most killed man on screen? Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
Good, congrats to him.
Good job.
Beat Vincent Price and Sean Bean.
It's funny because I'm like in the middle of my rewatch of Breaking Bad, and he dies in that too.
He does. He gets to ride a turtle. That's fun.
Yeah.
But, okay, so is there any other comfort shows we should cover before we move into video games?
Yeah, I was going to do video games or books, but you can do whatever.
Okay, we'll talk about some video games. Video games-wise, what do you guys like when you're just like, okay, I need this?
So, my ultimate turnoff, like, my brain and just kind of go, back in the mid-2000s, back when the Xbox Live was a new medium, I was a top 25 Madden player.
Damn.
So
I didn't know we were in the house with royalty, sir. I'm sorry. Did you have a contract?
So it was right before all of like the gaming stuff like really started to get big. But if you remember, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Madden bus.
Yeah.
And so I was not old enough to join the Madden bus because I was not 18 at the time. And it really made me mad because like I couldn't go on the Madden bus because they're like, yeah, you gotta be like an adult to like, you know, go on a road trip.
Yeah. Who says?
Yeah. And so they like gave everybody like gamer tags. And I remember I like would have my buddies over and I would like challenge the people that were on the bus. And I did pretty well. But so Madden every year is a game that I buy. And I hate myself for it because like it's gotten bad, and there's like you play a game and you play something so much that you like know the ins and outs, like you know, kind of like the people, and I don't know how this was discovered, but like the rocket jump in Halo, you know what I mean? Like you learn those type of idiosyncrasies of the games, and it's just like I'm playing this current version and I'm like, man, like it's not as responsive. Like there's like certain things that just aren't working.
And it's EA being EA.
Yeah, and so it's like the developer that I loved was Tiburon. They were the best at it, and it's just not them anymore. But I play that all the time because like I'm just like, oh, we can pop this in and just play.
Right. Keep it going. Keep it going.
What about you?
So for me, it's kind of hard to choose, but I was literally just thinking about it, then you got me thinking about Madden, and I was like, God damn EA.
They're awful.
Sorry, you threw me off with the EA thing. Deshaun, could you go with your games? Because I was so
Sure. This one is sort of odd. I have been carrying this game since it came out on the Dreamcast. It's the original Crazy Taxi.
Crazy Taxi is so fun.
I love that game. I still play that game all the time. I played it last night. Like, I had it on the Dreamcast. I have the port of it on the PS2, which is the last decent one you'll get because any other modern port of it changes the music because they lost the license to, like, the inserts that they had. And it's the ultimate, just like, I don't really feel like playing it. You know, I'll just play around a Crazy Taxi. And I've gotten so good at it. It's ridiculous. So, like, I remember as a kid, I used to always play on, like, baby mode. Just, like, play for 10 minutes. Don't play by arcade rules where you have to do well to get your time up.
That's crazy.
Taxi. Yeah, Crazy Taxi was always fun because a buddy of mine had a Dreamcast. We always played House of the Dead.
Yeah, House of the Dead. I was a big Comic Zone guy and anything Sonic.
Anything Sonic. Big into Code Veronica when that first came out for Resident Evil.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite games is Final Fantasy VII.
I just started playing it this year. It's another thing I need to get back to.
I was just geeking out to Frank about like the new version of like the opening for the remake. I was like,
so I've taken, when it comes to the Final Fantasy VII remake stuff, which we're like close, right?
Real close.
Like
April,
so about a month and a half.
Right. Yeah. I won't even believe it till I see it on somebody's like fucking TV. Somewhere,
right.
You know, like,
you're 100% right.
This is a game that's been delayed more than like the Don Quixote movie, you know? Like, it's just kind of like...
Lost in La Mancha.
Yeah, nothing's been more delayed than the Don Quixote movie, Frank. It still didn't come out. That's propaganda. It never came out.
It's Mandela effect. Everybody thinks it came out, but it didn't come out. I absolutely love it. I've been taking the same approach that I take like Marvel movies, where it's just like we've gotten so much into like with trailers and stuff, and people dissecting trailers, that I watch the teaser and I don't watch anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
The initial teaser, maybe like one other trailer, and like how they redid the opening is about the only thing I've watched. Right. Because I usually don't care about the overanalyzation stuff either.
Right. And so I haven't watched the new opening because I want to experience it.
Yeah, I get that.
I did.
Yeah.
It always varies for me. From like, I was just telling Frank that I was just going to wait for the new Bond movie to come out to even like hear like the new theme song, because he had already linked it to me. I was like, you know what? I just want to see I always look forward to like a new Bond opening. I'll just wait for that.
Right. All right.
And
It was cool.
The Final Fantasy stuff is, it's like 50-50 because I love the JRPG style, and I'm sad that that's gone away.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the new weird hybrid turn-based run-around nonsense.
I haven't... Like, Final Fantasy and, like, Square Enix in general has been, like, a love-hate relationship for me for a very long time.
Right.
Because I grew up... I've played and beaten at least all the mainline numbered Final Fantasy games except for the 2 MMOs.
Yeah, right.
And for me, like, there hasn't really been a Final Fantasy that I could get behind of the main number one since, like, 10 came out.
Right.
I wasn't big on 12. I hated 13.
Oh, that was garbage.
15, I had, like, hopes for.
15? Didn't you get to...
15 was fine.
Yeah, right?
It was fine. It had a lot of problems. Despite its development time, it was still incomplete at launch. And there was a lot of, like, oh, we'll just patch it later.
Yeah, that's rough shit.
Yeah, and it's tough because, like, especially when it comes to 7. 7 took such a weird, like, left turn.
Yeah.
When it came to, like, the materia system.
No, it's true.
And all that stuff.
I played all the other Final Fantasies,
7 went
and I feel
on,
like
like
7 is still a completely different game than all the other
7
ones,
went,
you know,
like, full-on steampunk, where they were, like, playing with it, and 6 were like, let's edge away from, like, the more traditional high fantasy stuff. and try to do something a little different. Like 6 played with it, but 7 really went all in.
Yeah.
And so it's such a different game, and for you to remake it and then I'll have to see how it feels when I play it.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like in 15 that it did have that kind of Kingdom Hearts sort of like fight vibe to it, where it's just like I can kind of control the other people.
Yeah,
but I do miss the straight up turn based. I would love for them to have like 2 versions, right? Where it's just like I can either turn on turn-based or I can have it.
Yeah, because there have been plenty of games that like sort of play with that idea before. Yeah. Like you go to some of like the BioWare games, like if you play Dragon Age Origins, and like there's 2 ways to play it. You can either play it real like slow burn, pick every deciding action, or you could just kind of let the game play itself.
Yeah. Right, because it's like that was one thing that I loved about 7, and I remember one of the nerdiest things that I ever did was.
That's what this show is about.
Yeah,
admitting your nerdy.
There are 2, actually 3. There are 3 very, very nerdy things that I've done. I'll share all 3 with you right now. One is I got pneumonia, and I basically just played Metal Gear Solid 3 so many times that I forget what, like there was like a number counter, and I forget what the number counter was. But I got to 100.
Oh my god!
I got to 100.
That is insane.
Because I just kept playing the game. I tried to beat the game as fast as I possibly could.
I've never even.
Yeah, just trying to speed
Metal Gear Solid 3 is like my favorite game of all time, and even so I've never gone like that hardcore with it.
Yeah, and well, because I was in bed and I couldn't.
Yeah, right.
Function
when you got pneumonia.
Number 2. Could not figure out in Final Fantasy VII. There's the part where after you get out of Midgar. And there's the pit and there's the snake. And you're supposed to get a chocobo and run across and not fight the snake. I didn't realize that was a thing.
So you grinded
everything. I maxed out all of my materia. So everything was like lightning 3, fire 3.
Hello, Tiny little snake. I've come back to kill you.
I love how you just treated the snake in like disc 1 as like Sephiroth.
Yep.
I gotta go all in on this fucking snake.
But I've done it for so many games. It's a thing that I do in JRPGs. I'm just like, one guy beats me and I'm just like, motherfucker, and I go and I'm just like, and I come back and I'm like, Rocky Balboa some shit.
I was just doing that with Dragon Quest because the true final boss is a pain in the ass. Yeah. I was just like, okay, I'm level 60. This game has been the easiest game in the franchise so far. I am good. No. It's like, all right, I'll come back 10 levels later. No. Just like, let's come back like 5 levels later. It's like, I'm like 80s. Am I good? No. So I'm just like, I guess I'm going to level 99 with this son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. So, for me, gaming-wise, though, it's got to be card games. Because it's important to bring up with JRPGs, because I feel like they're kind of, like, a lot connection. Like, it's a lot of, like, turn-based kind of, like, figuring it out, finding things. And you were saying how deep you can get into Madden. And I feel like that's one of my favorite things about a card game. Is that, like, you immediately can, like... Not immediately, but like, you start off being like, cool things. And then you start being like, here's the meta, here's what we do. And then it's just like, it's always, I always find it fun. I can, the thing I do on Switch is like, I always come back to some sort of card game at some point. Right. Like, I love all my games, but like, I'm always just like,
back in the DZ, I got into Pokemon cards. And, like, ever since then, I was like, I can't do this. I got too much going on. I can't get into cards, because, like, a bunch of my friends are really into the card game, the Magic card games.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are really into it.
And they're like, were like, you would really like this. And I'm like, I bet you're fucking right. But you know what? I got shit I have to do. like, that was the thing. I didn't touch Skyrim for, like, 8 months
because it's addictive crack in a game.
Oh,
like when I first touched it, I played it for 24 hours straight.
Right,
the first time.
Well, that was the thing. There was a blizzard that was coming, and I was like, I'm gonna buy Skyrim, and I'm gonna wait out this blizzard.
Skyrim had come out like when we were still in school, and I had gone home to my hometown for the winter break. I had gotten Skyrim and Arkham City. And, it got bad, because I was home for, like, a straight week, and it was just, like, playing all night until, like, 7, 8 in the morning, sleeping through the entire day, waking up at, like, 5 in the afternoon, and repeating that cycle for, like, a week straight. It was unhealthy.
Yeah, right? And that's how I feel about card games. Every single time somebody's just like, look at this new card game, and you, like, do this stuff and all this stuff, and it's, like, pretty artwork, and it's just like, yeah, that sounds awesome. But you know what? I got to pay for cable.
Well, that's why I specifically have now switched to non-physical card games.
That
like,
makes sense.
I do not do physical card. Like, I grew up playing Pokemon. I had Yu-Gi-Oh. I had, like, it was always Magic. When I first saw Magic, I was like, that's fucking cool. My cousins had it, like, and I was like, whoa.
That's
and
the
then
thing.
I was like, Pokemon. I was like, for me. And then Yu-Gi-Oh. I was like, I know, me. And then, like, and then I walked into Magic and was like, yeah, for a very long time until Hearthstone, and then from Hearthstone, I stopped playing card games that made you pay for cards.
Right.
Like, I do not play any card games that, like, unless it's, like, some, like, digital game where they're like, here's a battle pass, I'll be like,
Yeah.
but I don't pay for cards anymore.
Cards for me was one of those things where I would collect but never actually play.
I
used to have
I
used to have a huge binder of Pokemon cards, but it was just like I just like the art.
I played the Pokemon Game Boy game, and that's the real winner. Right
Yeah,
there.
the
Like,
TCG
the
game.
card
That
game
was
is the physical card game is too complicated, but that game it's like
I played the Pokemon card game a couple of times, and then just recently when I moved, I found, like, I had, like, 5 holographic Charizards.
Ooh.
Now, again, I had Pokemon cards when they fucking came out in 1995, and so I'm just sitting on these things being like, so, like, this is like $1,000 worth of cards, right? And, like, looking at eBay, and it's just like, yeah, it is. Do I want to sell them? I kind of want a Black Magic Pocket Cinema.
yeah, right. You're like,
I kind of want a
Worthwhile
new
investment.
camera.
Yeah,
I feel
I feel like
that.
I got my fix because you just love collecting art.
yeah.
So I would just collect it. It's like, I just love the way the cards look. And I got that out of my system because I kind of did the same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I played it a little, but I mostly just collected.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just pushed it onto other stuff. Like, I'm a Funko nut.
Yeah.
And
That,
I
thank
collect
God
comics.
I missed that. One of my old roommates, he has all the person that bought the Megazord. He bought all of the Funko Pops, and I am so glad that I don't.
Oh,
I
man.
don't do the Funkos because, again, I gotta pay for cable.
I don't do. This is it for my big pop Funkos up here. It's only like 2 layers or something. I keep the mini pop Funkos. He gets the.
I am fishing for a picture right
he's
now.
got
I will
all
show you
the
in a
Dragon
sec.
Balls, like
Yeah.
all the Dragon Balls, like all of them.
So my buddy, he bought all of the Avengers and he has like this setup going. He has all of those, and he has all of the Power Rangers.
Oh shit!
He has all the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and he's got all of them, as well as like the Tiger Zord, the Ultra
Here we
Zord, the
go.
Mega
Those are big
Zord.
Funkos.
There goes
Yeah.
my room.
Oh yeah, so it kind of looks like that.
Yeah,
He kinda-
where the walls
he's unboxed.
are that. You're just
He unboxes.
He unboxes.
Yeah, 'cause-
Jesus, sacrilege.
Yeah, this whole thing right here, that's just all Dragon Ball.
That's amazing.
That's like my
I
most
only
important one.
unbox if something went wrong. Like I bought the Funko
Oh,
and
see.
something like fell.
See, I have a
Just
bunch.
like,
I have a
"Hey,
couple
you're
of them. I have a couple of them. I have the like. It's the Sorcerer Mickey.
Yeah, I love that
I
one.
have, and he's on
That
the
one's
rock.
So cute.
So I have that one.
It always started like I got it as a gift, and then it got out of control.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
basically
I got-
that's basically it.
The first ones I ever got as a gift were actually Jay and Silent Bob, which is funny because they're in protectors now because they're worth a lot now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I basically always point for Switch players and everybody else to play. What's the card game that I've been loving? I put it on my list to you, and I
can't
forget
remember.
what it was. Fuck it. It's on a list.
he
on
loves it so much.
I love it so much, but it's on GalaxyGeek.com.
But I think
you can
the
check it
ultimate
out.
point is that I just pushed it onto other stuff. Instead of collecting cards, I'll collect collectibles like statues and stuff like that.
Feel
Comics is a good one because you sort of get that fix where you're collecting art, but there's also there's also something of substance here too.
Yeah, you're like, both.
See, I'm a figure collector myself. And so, like, with the anniversary of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I ended up buying all of the legacy figures.
Nice.
So, and I'm like 50-50 on this, because they released all of Mighty Morphin, and so I bought all of Mighty Morphin.
Yeah, of course.
But then the first wave came with, each one of them had a piece to build the Megazord.
Sick.
So I have the Megazord. Then they re-released them all, and I forget what the variant is, but basically, like, the first run, they're not proper because I think the belts aren't correct or something weird and minute like that. So they basically were like, "Oh, we're sorry, we'll re-release them, but give them the weapons instead." And I'm like, well, I want the weapons, but I don't want to re-buy all of them.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute. Like, that makes a ton of sense.
Oh, they know exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, I feel that. No, it's just like one of those. I'm a big amiibo collector. I don't know if you saw the shit ton of amiibos out there, and it's a lot of them. But I mostly, that's it for my figure collecting, is the Tiny Pop Funkos, the amiibos, and then that. But I mean, it's just because we got a small place.
Right. I also tell myself that same thing. I also have a very expensive habit of film equipment. So
I feel that.
$35 figure, $2,000 lens.
And that's kind of also part of the Funko addiction, is that it's just like, oh, it's just so good to collect on a budget.
Yeah,
just like I could buy this $200
well, that's the most
pristine figure. It's like, or I could just spend $10 and get like 10 of these suckers.
That's the most ingenious part about Funkos, and why I've steered clear of them. If you walk into a Newberry Comics or a GameStop or something, they have a whole wall of them, and it's like, buy one, get 7 free. And it's just like, well, I mean, if I spend $14, I can get 30.
And when they first came out, I didn't care, like, at all. The only thing that made me turn my eye was when I saw the Dragon Ball ones. I'm just like...
Yeah.
And the problem is, they're getting detailed with them now. Yes. Like, I want to show you this one that just got announced.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is they started so bland.
He's showing Spider-Man Venom one. And
yeah.
They started so bland, and it just very much was like... I don't know if you remember the vinyls for Disney. Disney came out with vinyls, which were the same thing.
Yeah, I remember.
And they were kind of these like blank slates with like, oh, that kind of looks like Donald Duck, you know? And then they got super duper detailed with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nuts, because I have Wally. I have like a Wally Funko Pump, and it's just like, oh, this is incredibly detailed for the thing that it is.
Yeah, right. You're like, it's $10 and look at him.
You know what I mean?
This little beautiful bastard.
Yeah, and it's not just like a round thing with like a kind of Wally looking head on it. And so it's just like, they have something for everything they go into.
Dude, it's just constant. It's just unending.
Yeah, right. With the Pokemon
they acquire so many licenses.
I walked into Newberry Comics the other day and I was like, Jesus Christ.
You could be into anything, and there's a Funko Pop for
There's
it.
at least one. You know,
right.
I have a Batman Raid up there. Like, I feel like that shouldn't even be a fucking thing, you know? Like, Batman Raid was one comic,
exactly. Right. I have a bunch of Batman ones, too. Those are probably the two most important lines, are, Dragon Ball ones, and then occasionally Batman. I cherry-pick Batman. Like, they have that... They have fucking Gotham by Gaslight, for fuck's sake.
Right. At least that has a movie. Batman Raid doesn't even have a fucking movie, and they made the Funko, you know?
And now they're like, and then they really pushed hard with it because the 80th anniversary was this past year, so they're just like, let's do all of the movies. Here's a Michael Keaton one, here's a Kilmer one, here's a Clooney one. I still need to get the Clooney one.
Yeah, because it does have bat nipples.
Bat nipples,
yes,
which is most important. So, should we move on to books?
Yeah.
To books? Where do you want to start with this, John?
I just picked a comic.
Okay.
And this one definitely doesn't fall into guilty pleasure. It is still comfort food, but it's still my favorite comic period anyway. Is All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I could just pick it up and read.
I knew it.
And then because it's just such a beautiful just tale of it, I love the direction that it goes into. I love the art. you and I are big fans of like Frank Whiteley.
It's true.
Who I actually got to meet and talk about the comic as well as the movie adaptation with him to ask him what he thought about it.
Nice. What did he say?
He said it's been a while since he saw it. He only saw it the one time. He thought it was interesting the way his style was like adapted for animated film because his style is so detailed, so they had to like streamline it to make it like animation friendly.
It's true.
So it was an interesting talk. He actually gave me, he was actually charging for signatures, but he gave me a free one after our nice conversation.
That's really nice.
But it's good because he rarely shows up as cons.
Yeah.
Like, very rarely.
Do you have a book?
I do. I'm a big Green Arrow guy.
Yeah.
And so Quiver is a big one. And then I also really love Final Crisis. Like
what?
I love
Final Crisis? All the crises.
All of them.
Look,
all
man,
of,
I love Grant Morrison, but Grant Morrison needs a leash sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Final Crisis is a big one.
Part of my I love how ridiculous it is because while Final Crisis is going on, Batman Rest in Peace is going on.
Yeah, and you're like, back!
And nobody talked to anybody, and so there's just nonsense happening. Batman dies twice, maybe? Like, it's bananas.
And that was all like the back in time stuff too, where you're like,
my guilty pleasure
Batman.
was Flashpoint event, though. Like, that's what it led into, and for me, that was always got me into comics was Flashpoint. Because it was so stupid. It was so wild. It was just like, hey, everything's backwards, fuck it. And then I was just like, sick. Like,
because like the thing as you said is like there are so many other crises, and yes, those are better. But I started like when I like really started getting comics like weekly.
Yeah.
Final Crisis was like the first like real big event.
Yeah,
because like
huge.
I came in at the tail end of House of M.
Yeah, okay.
I came in at the tail end of House of M, and so it was like Final Crisis and Civil War were the two.
Yeah, Civil War helped me get into comics too.
And so
that was
I know you hate me saying that because I know you don't like Civil War.
Civil War's not good.
But I love Civil War. I still love Civil War. I still do. I have no apologies.
Civil War
that.
is just one of those things where like it has a lot lot of great moments.
Yes.
A lot of contrivances to get there.
But that's why
But that's one of those things where just
like the Thor robot.
Yeah.
But that was the thing. It's like I didn't really understand like what was happening.
Where is Thor robot in the Marvel universe right now? The Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Didn't he die?
I need Marvel. I need robot. I need more.
Yeah, we need more. We need more. Yeah. But it was like I didn't understand. Like I was still like kind of getting the lay of the land in terms of like, oh, so this is the Fantastic Four book, and everything that happens in this Fantastic Four book ties in, but not necessarily everything. And I'm like, I don't. There's so much, and I'm not reading the. I don't. So like, Final Crisis was like the
getting
first
into comics in a nutshell.
Yeah, right. You're just
the,
like shit.
The first one, just staring at a wall, waiting for a nice shopkeeper to come over and explain it. Like, you look very confused. I am, sir. There are 5 different books here that all have to do with Batman. Do I have to read all of them? I do, but none of them mean anything in order to like in relevance to each other at all. Oh.
No.
Okay, I'll take 4. But yeah, that was so like Final Crisis was like the first one that I really kind of like got into.
And the other one I do want to bring up, even if it's not official, but I feel like it's ultimate comfort food, potentially for you as well. Okay. Even though it's a webcomic, is JL8.
Oh fuck! I love JL8. I do. It's so wholesome.
Have you ever read JL8?
No, I haven't.
All it is Justice League, but 8-year-olds. They're in like school, and it's just the most like charming thing that I've ever like read. And it's like one of those things where they should hire this man who's writing this, and they're not. And it's one of those things where you're like, you need to utilize this man to run your goddamn company almost because he's so goddamn good.
Yeah, it's very charming. It's super well done. Okay. Thankfully, Yale Stewart's like gone on to actually do some like official comic book work these days, and it's great. I'll probably link you to it at some point because I think you would like love it. It's like this is the most adorable thing I've ever read.
One final one for me is, and this is like very recently, is Boom Studios' Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's good.
I've heard great things about it.
Shattered Grid is fantastic. It's the entireness, and we'll talk about this later because it is the guilty pleasure that spoiler. But Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the original show, had all of its lore built by its fan base.
Yeah.
Like, the actual show, if you watch it on Netflix, has little to nothing. And so everything that's kind of like built on top of it in terms of like canon and characterization has all been fan driven. And Boom Studios has done a great job of taking that and basically like putting actual weight behind stuff. Shattered Grid basically kind of starts where after Green with Evil, and Tommy has joined the Power Rangers. And the emotional weight that they give all of the other characters and kind of everybody is like, well, he was just a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, can we trust him? Should we trust him? Like, and it's this back and forth and this pull, and it's like, oh, wow, it's giving a lot of emotional weight to these characters that in the actual TV show, they were like, you're a good guy now. Yay! And he's just like hardcore good guy now. And it's very interesting. And then Lord Draken is awesome. Like,
Lord Draken is sort of like taking the franchise by storm.
Yeah.
It's interesting that like
wild.
a comic book like original character for the franchise
Yeah.
is in like video games. He has his own
He's
pop
in-
now. He's
so-
everywhere.
He is
Which
so
is a good
interesting, and it's so great because basically it's instead of Green with Evil going the Power Rangers way, and they end up like breaking the spell and everything. He ends up staying evil. Zordon is going to give Jason the white power and to basically be like, you got to beat this guy somehow. So like, here, take this.
I gotta say that context is everything because you say that Zoran's gonna give Jason the white power.
He's definitely
He's giving him
the white power. If you know what I mean.
Context is very important.
And so basically, Tommy comes in, kills Jason, takes the power, and so now he's this weird hybrid of the dragon and the tiger. And then he murders Rita and is just like, I don't need you, bitch, and takes over the universe. And his whole plan is that he's going to take over like these multiple realities where different Power Ranger teams, and that's how he's going to amass his power. And he's a very well-written character.
You're definitely selling it for me. Like, it's Shattered Grid was one of those things where like it's sort of been, I've like watched it from afar, and I'm just like, eventually,
it's worth it if you play it is on the Switch. The
Battle for the Grid. I like it a lot.
It's really
it was
good.
half-baked at first, but now they've added a bunch of patches, really fixed a lot, added a lot of characters. I've kind of been like, oh.
Yeah, it's a pretty good game, but it definitely kind of tells the story a little bit. If you're kind of like,
because they added a single player. I haven't played that yet, but that's why I felt like the game was.
Yeah,
like,
the
you're
game
like,
was
wow,
like,
you launched out a single player
the game
and then put
was
it later. Like
like
what?
hilariously bare bones when it came out. It was like really.
It was 5
sad.
characters or something.
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
like,
And I was
yikes.
like, yikes. But it has grown well.
Yeah.
But
Shattered Grid is awesome, and you should definitely check that out.
book wise for me, it's kind of hard because I don't often read books anymore. It's just one of those things. I don't.
Yeah, that's why I put like the caveat of just like it could be a comic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Comic wise, I always go back to the comic that before Batman vs Superman came out. I used to read Dark Knight Returns like a lot. I really thought that was one of those like holy shit Batman stories. You know, like I was just like, god damn. And now, but I feel like Batman vs Superman has stained it a little bit for me, but like that's not completely.
I wouldn't say that.
Like it's more like Dark Knight Returns Strikes Back or whatever.
Dark Knight Strikes Again and Dark Knight 3: The Master Race or whatever the hell it's called.
Those have stained my view on it. Like, you know, like it's one of those things that like I used to read it a lot.
I read Strikes Again and that was it for me. As soon as they announced the 3, it's just like, I will avoid that like the plague. I am morbidly curious, but I'm not dumb.
Just like, I don't trust you, Frank Miller. I just don't. Just like, it's like, and that was the thing is I would say my other, like, I was going to say the other one is Sin City. Like, I used to love Sin City. I used to buy all the Sin City books. It was one of those things where I was just like, God damn, look at that black and white. And then and Splash and Color. And then I kind of grew out of that because it got super overused in poor Sin City, you know, like, because it had a great visual style, and then everyone was like, that's nice.
Let's do that.
It's true. Let's do that forever. Like, and you're just like, wait, no commercials everywhere. I've done it always. So you're just kind of like, eh. So it loses a bit of its steam. But like,
and the movie was great, and the second one existed.
It existed. It happened.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
It was just one of those things where, like, it was just too little, too late.
Yeah.
Like, on its own, it wasn't bad, but you're just like, you guys just waited too long.
Well, it's these
kind
legacy
of awkward
sequels.
Now. Yeah.
You know, it was kind of one of the first ones, and I'm like vehemently against legacy sequels where it's like, don't, if it's not within, like, there's like a striking period where you can make a sequel.
Which was our last episode.
Yeah, just all about belated sequels,
right.
Yeah.
You know, the Avatar stuff annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
because I just was joking about an article being like, hey, Avatar just got delayed to 2015. Watch out, guys. Like,
yeah.
Because that was the last time they said that there was an official delay. Wasn't it? And they were like, we're going to move it from 2015. And now we still don't even know if we're getting one this year. Like, and that's why I think it's ridiculous when you put on Disney Plus that they put Avatar in your face. Because you're kind of like, I know you want us to remember this.
To remind you,
because for some odd reason, instead of just doing the Fantasy Kingdom, you just doubled down and did Avatar.
Which I gotta say is a beautiful part of the party.
It is a beautiful part of it.
Crazy, but it doesn't compete against Harry Potter Land, which is what they were trying to do.
Right,
know?
and you succeeded in what you were trying to do with Galaxy's Edge.
Yes, I feel like that's the true
Beautiful.
win. Yeah.
Beautiful. That is fantastic. I watched stormtroopers abduct a woman.
That's everything I've ever wanted.
Like, it was everything I ever wanted. Like I was just like walking by, and these stormtroopers were like, "Hey, you lady!" And then she was like, "What?" And he was like, "You're coming with us!" And they just grabbed her and took her away. And the woman's daughter was just like standing around, being like, "Do I go? Like, what do I?" And just like they just like followed her. I was like, I don't know. Sure, there's Chewbacca. I'm going to talk to him. And so, you know what I mean? So, like, they nailed it there. Avatar, it's just like, I get it. It's like, a lot of the themes of the movie is planets and, like plants and animals and, like, being one with nature. So, like, it fits with Animal Kingdom. The thing is that it's like, Beastly Kingdom was gonna be way better. where it was supposed to be real animals, prehistoric animals, fantasy animals.
Yeah.
That was the plan, and you should have stuck to that.
And it's just one of those things, and we had talked about this on the belated sequels one, where Avatar has had like no cultural longevity ever since it came out.
It's just kind of like
from a technical perspective, absolutely. But it's just one of those things where like they feel like they're telling you it's culturally significant, but it really isn't.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, we were the highest grossing movie at one point. And it's just like, yeah, but nobody remembers your movie.
Yeah. You're like, tell me what happened in your plot. They're like, Pocahontas. And you're like, exactly.
Did you see Fern Gully? It's basically that.
It's basically that.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, without Steve Buscemi. It's like a smoke monster.
It was actually Tim Curry.
Oh, was it Tim Curry?
Yeah, it was Tim Curry. That's part of it.
Yeah,
that
true.
is.
He's so good.
Yeah.
So we have now come to the dirty, the guilty, the makes you feel like I shouldn't be watching this shit because nobody should know I should watch this shit.
The stuff that can't leave this room.
The stuff that can't leave this room, and we're gonna post it on the internet. So
everything I do is on the internet.
everything. So I'll start it off with Gilmore Girls.
Very fun.
I was raised by a single mother, like, you know, so I've watched a lot of TLC, HGTV, and Gilmore Girls. And Gilmore Girls is one of those things that if I'm even running late for work and my wife has an episode on, I'm just going to sit down and be like, Lorelai, you're fucking hilarious. Like, I'm just like, I will, like, literally laugh at her jokes and, like, and, you know, like, and be, like, it's one of those shows that has such quick dialogue and great references that somehow it's got this great longevity to it. And then also, it's I don't know why it grosses me all the time. I have no clue, but it's just like so like, oh yeah, what's Lorelai up to now? You know, like you're just like, all right, like,
it's a good one.
So even when Netflix brought it back and did those last 4 episodes, I thought that was actually super great too. Like they really did a great job.
You were the only person I know who's just like, yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I'm there.
Gilmore Girls was always just one of those things where I would just see it advertised while I was there to watch Smallville instead.
Yeah,
it's true.
I understand, but you know, it was one of those things that it was just on, and you know, like, and I watched it. Now it's like, if it's on, I'm sitting down, you know, like, and I'm laughing, and like, and I can't like, you know, I don't want to admit that to everybody, but at the same time, it's just true. I just love that fucking show. I have no clue why. But I'll come back to the second one afterward. But like but you know, I'm always in Lorelai's corner.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, so I'll just get this one out of the way because I got a bunch. But it's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It's on Netflix. They're all on Netflix, and so yeah, when I'm like just looking for something to just kind of put on and have on in the background, I started at Mighty Morphin. I'm somewhere in the middle of space right now.
I watched up until like SPD, I think, before I like kind of fell out of it.
Yeah, so when I actively watched it, I watched all the way through the end of Space because basically, it, you know, like if you're talking about like the fanography of it, I guess it's the like the Zordon era ends at Space.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the end of Space is the Z-Wave happens, and then it kind of splinters from there. So I didn't watch Lost Galaxy or any of that stuff. So basically, I watched Mighty Morphin, Alien Rangers, Zeo, Turbo, Space, and then now I'm going to get into kind of the other ones, which, to be fair, it does have a lot more emotional weight as it goes on.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so like they definitely do a lot more like scene to scene and storyline compared
Instead of
to
just being like new monsters. Let's kick the shit out.
If you're like the rest of the fandom, I think you'll really be into Time Force when you eventually get to that. It's like that's another like fan favorite. That between that and Mighty Morphin was always my favorite.
Right, because like I've like seen different ones from time to time. Like I liked Ninja. That was really fun. And then Samurai as well.
Were they sequels?
No,
they were just like, fuck it.
Yeah, they're kind of in their own thing with the occasional crossover. Like, I was going to ask you if you ever watched Forever Red.
I watched Forever Red.
Yeah.
I popped super hard when they were like, we're waiting on one more. And you're like, is it going to be him? Is it going to be him? And then all of a sudden, on a motorcycle, Jason just shows up like, you thought you were going to do this without me? And it's just like, yes! I did watch the crossover where it was like the huge mega team crossover for like the 25th anniversary. And then I also watched recently when Tommy came back and they introduced the Master Morpher, which is awesome. And I can't, like, it logically makes no sense, but I'm here for it because it was like, yeah, so like, the green power coin was like lost because a candle melted. So that one's no good anymore. And then the white one went away because they took that away and had to get turned into children and then had to find a crystal or something. And then he was a Zeo with...
Yeah, he was Red Zeo.
It was whatever. And then we don't talk about how he was the red Mighty Morphin Power Turbo Ranger. And he was Vin Diesel for a minute.
Yeah, he was also like the Black and Gold Ranger for
Dino Thunder
as well.
Yeah, so basically he's got this morpher, and now he can turn into all of them. Except again, we don't talk about that short time that he was Vin Diesel, where he was the red Turbo Ranger, which that movie's garbage. That movie is...
Look, man, Turbo, either the movie or the series, is not one that
no, it's not great.
It's not a fan favorite.
But now I'm anticipating for the new season to come back. I think it's Beast Morpher Season 2. Nice. And only because Jason's coming back, and Jason has a Master Morpher now, apparently. And it's just like, look, here's the thing. I think I speak for everybody that's like 28 plus that just goes, you know what? Bring back the original team for just a short Netflix run. Just do it. I want to see it.
If Salmon Films is down, you're kind of like, why not?
It's Hasbro. Hasbro owns the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You want to make a boatload of toys? Bring back all of the original for like, hey, look, for some odd reason, these assholes have to save the universe again. They're no longer teenagers with attitude. They're adults with attitude.
Let's just bring everyone back. Bring Ivan Ooze back. Why not?
Yeah. Bring it all back.
Yeah, that character that was just in the movie, and it was an alternate reality or something.
I have seen the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie with Ivan Ooze more times than I would care to admit.
I agree. I've seen it so many times.
I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, me too. I saw it for a birthday. It was like, ooh.
I saw it
at Chunky's.
Chunky's?
Yeah, Chunky's.
I used to... So, fun fact about Chunky's. I used to produce wrestling shows at Chunky's.
Yeah!
So we used to move all the tables, put a wrestling ring there. It was weird. It was a very weird time.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
It was a very weird time.
Oh, man, I miss Chunky's.
It was pretty great.
But, Deshaun, your guilty pleasure?
Of all things, the fucking Riddick movies.
The Riddick movies?
The Riddick movies.
We're
Pitch
talking
Black,
about Vin Diesel.
Pitch Black is a good movie.
It is. It was originally written to be Alien 3, and to be honest, it's better than Alien 3.
It is better than Alien 3.
But
there's the best piece of acting in Alien 3, though. And by best, I mean absolute worst. And it's when Sigourney Weaver... It's the iconic scene from Alien 3
where they did that.
It's the thing
to the
face, and she's like quivering in the corner, and then it like leaves, and she like sprints down a hall, and they're on a lava planet, so she's sweaty and in a tank top, and so she busts into the thing, and she just goes, "It's here," and it's just like, oh. You give zero fucks about this. So I guess I should give zero fucks.
The only thing people remember from Alien 3 is that iconic shot and Ripley was bald.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
but,
that's all they remember.
Yeah, Pitch Black is a solid movie. I used to watch it all the time with like my mom.
Yeah.
And I was super into that. And Riddick was always like the mysterious badass. It was pretty easy to know. It's just like, what if we just made it all about him? Because Vin Diesel's coming up in the world. And like Chronicles of Riddick is stupid, but I love it.
Yeah.
I just love adding all this like... trying to add all this like high fantasy bullshit to what was originally just like this cheesy horror movie.
Yeah.
And like Riddick, the third one was also the same way, which was just kind of Pitch Black 2.0. And I played the Chronicles of Riddick video game, which is a great game. Escape from Butcher Bay is a blast.
It's a blast. I really did love that game.
The Chronicles of Riddick made no sense. I didn't understand what that movie was, but this was a movie, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, where it's like the end of that movie almost redeems it. Because it's like, he kills the guy and sits down on the throne.
And you're like, die.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool because, like, the entire time, that whole alien race, they're, like, doing this mantra of, like, you keep what you kill.
Uh-huh.
And so it's just like, oh, so he murdered the emperor, so now he's the emperor? Well, I want to see where this goes now, I guess.
And then Riddick happened. It's just like, but what if we did Pitch Black again, but worse?
Yeah, you're just like, wait, no.
It's just like, well, we were going to do this whole epic fantasy thing to expand on, like, Fury and stuff, but no one cares about this movie, so we don't have the budget for that, so we're just going to do Pitch Black again.
And now we have Bloodshot coming out in next month.
Yeah, I don't know, like, why I'm so into these stupid movies.
Because Riddick's a cool character.
Yeah, Riddick is just a badass.
He's a cool character, and that was what Chronicles of Riddick was, and I mentioned this off the air, where it was like, he's a good character trapped in a shitty movie.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I care about what you're doing. Everything that Riddick is doing in this movie, I care about because I like you. But everything is garbage. Like, the fact that girl from the first one grows up and wants to be him, so she gets herself into prison or something.
Right, you're like, what?
I did this to impress you. It's just like, okay.
That's weird.
All right.
But the game was great. There was actually 2. People always forget about the second one.
Yeah.
Wasn't as good as the first. It was all right.
I assume so.
But it was fun for what it was. But they really leaned into, like, Riddick's a badass, and Vin Diesel voices him, and they have his likeness, and they use his eye shine as a mechanic in the game, and it's fucking awesome.
I remember that because it was the jump animation that made me laugh. It was just like Vin Diesel's like, huh, huh. And you were just like, great. Like, thank you, professional voice actor. Like, Vin Diesel, I am Groot.
Did it for all of them.
Did it for every single one. They were talking about maybe replacing him, and you're just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you could just do that, probably.
It's like, it's arguably like the worst of his franchises, but it's the one that I'll keep coming back to. Yeah. Like, you announce another Riddick movie, I'm there, where I'm just like, fuck the Fast and the Furious, I'm done.
I
fuck
love
Triple
the
X,
Fast
I'm
and the
done.
Furious.
Oh, shit. No.
I love it. One is Point Break.
It's just Point Break.
Yeah,
it's
Point Break.
Absolutely.
And so, like, solid movie. They did a great job. They updated it for the 90s. Racing, fast cars, great, whatever. Number 2 is terrible. But it's very fun because Tyrese is in it.
Yeah.
And so it brings a different
and it's
element.
hilarious because 2 was ridiculous, but it ended up being a precursor for where the franchise ended up going.
Yeah.
Right. Then 3 happens. And
I like 3 a lot. I watched 3 actually recently, and I was kind of like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, it's fine. The thing about 3 is that it means nothing to anything else.
And the lead actor is terrible.
Yeah, the lead actor is also
he's
terrible.
Bad, but
and
the rest
so,
of it, it's funny in a way. You know,
I do appreciate that it's like, look, we have something, but like it's not working anymore, so let's try and do something different. And also, none of the lead actors want to be in this anymore. Then it's very fun because all of the lead actors, namely Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, realized that their other projects were not working out.
Yeah, nothing was happening.
So everybody comes back to the 4th one, and then the 4th one's actually pretty good. It's a pretty good like drama, like action movie, and so it's fine.
And I hear 5 where it finally kicks off. Like
so 5,
like somebody started smoking something. Like
5 kind of went 2 again, but the franchise was ready for it.
Yeah. So 5 is the type of batshit nonsense that a lot of these theaters, like Chunky's, or like my presenting sponsor for that movie show is Showcase Subscribe.
There you go.
They have, I'm contractually obligated to tell you to sign up for Showcase Subscribe. It's a you can see more movies for less, and it's basically a subscription service. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Sorry, they're not going to fuck me like Movie Pass.
No. See, I have a whole thing on Movie Pass that we can talk about later. But basically, it's like they have Lux Level, where you can drink alcohol at a Showcase Cinema.
There you go.
Right? So you sit down. Fast Five's about to start. You got 2 Jack and Cokes. You pound those, and then you watch this nonsense of a movie where people are driving around Brazil, and The Rock's here for some reason. And he's like, I gotta catch this asshole, but I'm a DEA agent, but for some odd reason I had to go to Brazil to find it, and the bad guy's the governor or something, and they're driving around, and there's a giant safe, which physics just don't apply.
Yeah, you're like, what?
Like, at one point, they, like, take a turn, and, physics happens, and it, like, takes out the bottom floor of a skyscraper, and it's just like, I don't know if you know this, but you don't have enough momentum to keep this safe going. Right. And then
also Ludacris is a tech expert. Just go for it.
Yeah. And then in an epic twist, you somehow have an Ocean's 11 type switcheroo that nobody saw coming, which if you're watching the movie, it's just like, oh yeah, it clearly cut when they went under that bridge, and then these 2 cars went different ways. Right. It's clearly there. And so sure enough, it's bananas. Then we get to 6, 7, 8, and it just ups the nonsense.
If it's not FX,
I've been saying this since
movie, if it's not X,
I've been saying this since like Fast
X.
5 came out. That's just like they're gonna call that 10th one. They're gonna put an X in that 10th one's title.
Yeah.
I'm
there for it.
I am so there for it. The trailer for Fast 9 is beautiful. At some point, Dominic Toretto drives a car at a bridge that is out, and Michelle Rodriguez is just like looking at him being like, you're not going to do what I think you're doing. He's like, hold on. And he just hits a pillar, and there's a cable or a rope, and somehow the car like doesn't rip the post out of the other side, and instead just like swings.
It catches on like the rope of
like
the
batarang around.
And it like swings like a wrecking ball to the other side.
And if that isn't enough, if all that nonsense of cars doing acrobatics isn't enough, John Cena's here for some reason.
John Cena!
As Vin Diesel's secret brother.
As John Cena's secret brother. Which is really funny, because if you follow this franchise, the main love interest of Paul Walker, who has been in this franchise the entire time, is his sister. And And so it's like, you're telling us that this brother-sister duo just never mentioned their other very handsome, chiseled brother?
Yeah, right? Who's also good at driving cars.
He's also good at driving cars and a secret agent or something. Oh, God. And then The Rock's still here. Jason Statham's here. They're having their own
They have their own
adventure.
spin-off.
Look, I just can't wait because they had their own spin-off. And the way that this movie goes, this franchise goes, you have The Rock and then The Rock and Jason Statham, they took on Idris Elba. Idris Elba's now going to join the team, right? And they're going to have to take on
Dragon Ball. They're like, join Piccolo.
Yeah. And so now all of a sudden they're going to have to take on Mel Gibson or something. It's going to be bananas.
Oh
my God!
The last one I watched was 7 because it was the last one that Paul Walker did. And I was just I think I'm just done. I don't have the capacity for it anymore.
He used to live his life a quarter mile at a time.
And that is...
I can't.
Oh my God, I hear that in every single trailer for one of these.
Right?
We haven't heard it before.
It's this one.
It's all about your family.
It's all about family.
But that definitely
that was also the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer.
That is definitely a contender for the worst, most inconsistent names for installments ever.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. The Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yes.
The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Fast and Furious. We dropped the.
Yeah, so it's different.
Fast 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fast and Furious 6.
Oh, okay. We just dropped everything. We just were back to normal. Everyone's
Furious
okay.
7.
Yep.
Yep. All right.
The Fate of the Furious.
Yeah, see.
And then F9.
And then F9.
And they tweet at me.
I thought
that.
Rambo...
That's my favorite thing, is when they were like, do you want to see the trailer? And I was like, calm down.
I thought Rambo was bad.
Yeah.
Rambo Last Blood is terrible.
But, okay, so, last guilty pleasure thing, I am... And it's a new thing that I've been watching recently, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but actually, I'm, super into it, and I don't know why. Literally can't stop watching it. Have you guys ever seen Love Island Australia?
No.
Good. Don't. But it's the dumbest and also most intriguing thing I've ever witnessed. Somebody tried to make me watch Love Island, the normal one. It's all British people. But they're a little stuck up. The Australians, though, they're like, oh, mate, well, fuck, hey! And you're like, oh, Jesus, what the hell is this? And it's just kind of an amazing, weird, watching a zoo, and I'm not into reality shows like that. The one reality show I watch is Kitchen Nightmares, because Gordon Ramsay yells at people, that. It's he's gonna be hey, you're a shit cook, and that's what I'm there for. But this show is so bad and so good, I can't stop. We're 15 episodes in. This is why I didn't finish BoJack, is because I was supposed to finish BoJack, and then we started this show, and I've just been I need to know who's gonna be coupled up with who next. And I don't know why. Somebody stop me. Somebody intervene. I don't know.
It doesn't make it better, Frank.
It doesn't. But it's so bad and so good at the same time that you're just kind of I'm gonna keep going.
It makes sense. I had the similar experience. This I don't recommend this. This isn't a guilty pleasure, but it was the show called Siberia.
Oh yeah.
And Siberia, I don't know what the actual deal was, but the show was about a reality Survivor-esque show that took place in Siberia, and the whole concept was actually pretty interesting, where it was hey, we drop these people off in Siberia, and you have food, and you just have to stay here for X amount of days.
Yeah.
If you stay here for the X amount of days, at the end of the day...
Kind of a naked and afraid.
We're
just going to shove you in a bad place, figure it out.
Yeah, there's but you got a cabin, you can stay in the cabin or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But at the end of the whatever many days, you all split the money, right?
Oh, okay.
And so there's a helicopter pad over there, and you can walk over, hit the button, and a helicopter will come and take you away. It's okay, that's pretty interesting. But then weird shit starts happening, and this took place in the middle of the summer.
Oh, okay.
And so then all of a sudden aliens, and it became winter, and
really?
all this. It was interesting, and I think that they used real people
and tricked them into this.
Not necessarily. It was definitely scripted.
Yeah,
it was definitely scripted, but I think that they used unknown non-union actors, because the acting was terrible. And Like, it was just a garbage show, but you just got hooked on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's just this weird thing where it's just like, I don't think I could ever sit down and watch it again. But for the, like, week that I, like, binged it, like, it was all I could think about.
Yeah, and that's the weird part about this is that it's like all I can think about recently, and I don't know why.
Right.
I'm like, this is stupid. This is bad, and I shouldn't like it, and I do, and I love it, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like,
so another one, and this could really just be its own genre. There are so many just guilty pleasures, shitty horror movies.
Yeah, shitty horror movies. There is some great.
I
shitty
could bring
horror
up
movies.
a bunch. Deep Blue Sea. I could do Anaconda.
Any shark movie.
I'm actually surprised that you didn't
pleasure,
bring that up. Just
I'm sorry, I
any
did forget.
shark movie that's not Jaws is a guilty pleasure because there's
It's true.
just
They're all
Jaws
bad.
and then every other shark movie.
They're all bad, and I love them. I'll watch them all, even if they suck. Like, I mean, sometimes I'll just fall asleep during, like, Mega Shark versus Sharktopus, but you're kind of like, you know, like
Sharktopus.
Shark, you know, like,
Sharktopus.
but you know, it's one of those things where you're just like, hey, you know,
Yeah, or even stuff like, I don't know, Alien versus Predator, which isn't good, but I'm just there to see them fucking fight.
You're so right, though. Alien versus Predator is one of those things where I shouldn't like that, you know, like, but I love them both, and I want another one.
I don't like
stop
this-
like being a shit. Like,
I
give
like
me that
the
stuff.
first one enough to count it as a guilty pleasure. I really don't like the
R,
second one,
Requiem.
which is weird because it's the R-rated one. It's
Yeah.
the more violent one. Why is this worse, and why can't I see a goddamn thing?
It's true.
It's true, but
I like Freddy versus Jason.
Oh,
I love Freddy versus Jason, but I don't feel guilty about that.
I don't. Well, here's the thing. I don't necessarily feel guilty about any of this stuff.
No, of course not. You know, like, we're on a nerd podcast.
Not deep
this
down,
is not,
not
like,
truly,
really guilty.
if we're being honest.
Yeah. You know.
It's like, you know, I still love it.
Well, Freddy vs. Jason is one of those things where just like it's no more dumb than any other sequels you would have watched up to this point.
Exactly.
And except this time you get to see Freddy and Jason fight. Just fucking have fun.
Yeah.
Just fucking go
Just
with it.
have fun.
Yeah. The big thing for me is I watch a ton of like online content.
Yeah.
So like a lot of YouTube shows. So I don't know necessarily if like this counts. So I'm just gonna list off a bunch of them. But it's like I love the theme park history stuff.
Oh, I'm
Like
a
Defunct
big
Land and stuff like
Land.
that? Yeah.
Defunct
Defunct
Land
Land
is the shit.
Yeah.
I love Defunct Land.
Defunct Land, theme park history,
Yep.
Expedition theme park.
Yep, that's the.
Those-
I think that Expedition theme park is like a little bit lower than Defunct
Yes.
Land, but like it's just as good.
And then Fast Pass Facts.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
So all those, I love those. They're fantastic. TPM videos and
Yep. He does the ride videos.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
and
good.
Disney Food Blog. Those are all stuff that I watch. I watch a ton of that stuff. I absolutely love it. And then Good Mythical Morning.
Good Mythical Morning. Thank you for saying it. Thank
God
you.
damn
I
it.
love Good Mythical
That
Morning.
show is so fucking good.
I always say it's like watching TV from another dimension because
is.
like they literally do things that are just so wild and weird.
That's the type of thing, and I think it's like this in a bunch of Bon Appetit videos. That's the type of thing I put on in the background when I'm like grinding in an RPG with my earphones
Right.
on if I'm not listening to a podcast.
Yeah, it's just that type of stuff is just so good. It's genius. It is absolutely genius because it's perfect for exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it is.
15 minutes of content,
It is
10 minutes of content.
It's a morning talk show.
Yeah.
It is a morning talk show that is there every morning, and it is wacky and absurd. They recently did like snacks from another
I
dimension.
love that one where they made the freezing cold Cheetos.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, holy shit.
You know,
guys.
yeah, they did that. Instead of nerds, they did jocks, and it was just one big nerd. Like, you know, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
and that's like one episode, and they do it every day. You
Right.
know, like, and it's just one of those things where you're like, how do they do this? You
well,
know,
and
like,
it's nuts because they even have huge guests. They recently had Terry Crews on,
Yeah.
where they did a thing where everybody was eating
all the
tiny
yogurts,
foods.
right?
Well, it was tiny foods, and so there were all three of them were sitting down at a table eating tiny food. One of the tiny foods was gross. It was like a gross version of whatever they were eating. So
Yeah.
like pancakes, and one of them was like sour or something. And so you could swap them around, and it was like a game that they were playing. And it's just like, yeah, but Terry Crews is sitting there in a part of this show, and the production value is so high. I love it. The consistency is so high. They're very engaging, very likable.
I feel that.
And I watch it literally every morning.
Yeah, no, we watch it all the time in my house. It's something that my old roommates got us into, and because they have the Good Mythical Mug and like a bunch of other things, and they got us really into it. It's just such a great show. And I think you have to give it up if we're talking guest things. Another YouTube show that does that well is First We Feast Hot Ones. You know, like Hot Ones is so good. Like Hot Ones is great. And it's one of those things that, like you said, you put it on the background, watch a really nice interview, you know, and they just fall apart.
Yeah,
at the end, you know?
Really good interviews.
He's
astounding.
Sean is fantastic as an interviewer, and it's
he's the Walter Cronkite of our generation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. But it's so great because it brings the guard down. Right now, like, I'm a huge spicy food guy. I love hot sauce. Nice. I make my own hot sauce. Like,
oh shit!
I love hot sauces, and so I own literally all of their hot sauces. R.I.P. the Chipotle one, because they don't make it anymore. But it was it was like their middle sauce.
Oh, nice.
They replaced it with Los Calientes, but it was so good. But I've tried all of these. I've tried all of the sauces. I get them. I've gone to Heatness, all the fun stuff.
Nice.
Right? But when you're at that upper level, like the last like 4 or so,
the Calvins just like start beating the fuck out of you, like
it brings their guard down, right? And so somebody that might not necessarily answer or give a PC answer, for one of these major stars. Yeah. You're not thinking about it because your brain is doing something else. And so you're getting genuine reaction from these celebrities.
Yeah, and it also helps that they're engaged at the interview because he actually asks questions that interest them as opposed to the milquetoast cookie cutter ass questions they've probably heard a million times in the 10 other interviews they did that same day.
Oh yeah, and that's the big thing. And as somebody who I've interviewed a lot of professional wrestlers, right? And the same thing, we sit and we talk after and before and things like that. And it's they have been asked the same generic questions over and over and over again. And so you need to dig deep. You need to have something that's going to kind of catch them off guard. I not recently, maybe like a year ago, interviewed Bobby Flay.
Nice,
right?
There you go.
And a majority of the interview was about his cats. You know what I mean? And it's just because everybody asks about restaurants and beat Bobby Flay. So it's he's answered that question a bunch of times. I'm not going to get anything new, unique, interesting. Yeah. He's going to say the same thing he said a billion times because he's been asked this question a billion times. But what about your cats? You're a huge cat guy. What's the deal? Oh, hey.
What's up with that?
Yeah, but it's you actually took the time to care, and so I'm going to give you a real answer.
Mm-hmm. That's really
good. And that's kind of what Hot Ones ends up doing, and it's so good.
Yeah, it really is.
They also have other good shows on there.
They really
First
do.
We Feast, they have a cheeseburger one. They have a cheeseburger show.
Yeah, the burger show's ridiculous.
The burger show's ridiculous. I went to there's in Connecticut, there's 2 burger places that claim to be the first burger place.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's I'll drive down there and go check it out. So
that's wild. I follow the gaffer for theirs on Instagram because he's so good at pointing out how he did his gaffing and lighting behind the scenes of Hot Ones and the other shows he does. It's just one of those things that as a film nerd, I'm just sitting there being like, fuck, dude. You're like, damn.
It's also so smart. That set is so ingenious because
you can prop it up literally
you can
anywhere.
Put it anywhere. I don't need anything.
Yeah.
I don't have anything fancy. I just need the bottles and the wings. And I can put that anywhere. I can get black Duvetine literally anywhere.
Anywhere.
So it's easy to just be able to get the stuff. Oh, it's genius.
It is. I love it. So does that bring us to the end of all our Guilty Pleasure things?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, so to end it, I just want to, because we all went to film school together, let's end it with the director you will defend till the end, is basically it. A director that is just kind of people kind of fucking hate this guy, but I will take him to the end. I'll start it off by saying Robert Rodriguez. I'm a huge Robert Rodriguez guy. He started me off. I always loved El Mariachi, Desperado.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that anything he puts out. I mean, Spy Kids, of course, was a wild time, but like, you know, like, but other than that, you're like, I'm always there for anything Robert Rodriguez wise. But.
Of course. I have two.
Okay.
One is just kind of like a person that I always say with this sort of answer, and one is somebody I'll have to defend. Kevin Smith. I absolutely love Kevin Smith, and people don't necessarily hate him. It's just from like a career standpoint, I really kind of idolize exactly what he does between directing, writing, producing, podcasting, you know, acting even. You know, I just kind of emulate what I would want my film career to be, so I always kind of defend him. But the person that I think actually needs to be defended, and this is going to be wild, is Adam Sandler.
Really?
Adam Sandler. And the reason is because are his movies...
you're from New Hampshire?
No, I'm not from New Hampshire.
No? I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure. Because I'm from New Hampshire, and a lot of people will be like, yeah, but he's from New Hampshire. Like, you know, but...
geographically has no bearing on any of this. Are his movies any good? Some of them, no. Some of them,
no.
The Ridiculous Six, hot garbage.
Oh, yeah.
But... man.
When he hits it, like Punch Drunk Love.
Well, it's like, when he hits it, when he does really, really good things, they're really good. But even more so than that, fuck, man. Yeah, I'm going to get a bunch of my friends together. We're going to make a movie and we're going to go shoot this son of a bitch in Hawaii. Yeah, sign me the fuck up. Like, are you for real? I like the way that movies work and like the actual finances of all of the nonsense. And again, this goes back to the actual like professional end of things. It's like, was Grown Ups good? No. Did it make a boatload of money? Yup. So I'm going to keep doing that. Are you telling, like, the dream, we all went to film school. The dream is I'm going to hang out with my friends and I'm going to make a movie. That's what this motherfucker's doing.
It's true. You gotta give it up.
He's straight up just like, hey, like, I wrote a movie where we're in Monte Carlo. Kevin James, you want to go? And he's like, sure. And so they go and make a movie in Monte Carlo. You know what I mean?
So true.
And it's just like,
true.
At the end of the day, movies are supposed to be seen by people, right? And you can get into the minutia, and you can get into the technicalities of like
what is art?
What is art?
What does it add to the medium?
Because it's like, I talk about this with the Academy Awards all the time, right? It's like Parasite technically won the Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah,
and you know what? It's a fantastic movie. You should go see Parasite. You should also go see more foreign movies. Cool. That being said, the best movie of the year was Avengers Endgame. Why? Because everybody went and saw it.
Yeah.
The point was for people to go see... You want people to go see your movie.
You want butts and seats.
Yeah. Everybody went and saw the movie. That's the best one. You know what I mean? And it's that kind of a give and a take where it's like, yeah, look, again, Ridiculous Six. That movie is garbage. But it's also like, yeah, but I had a blast making it, so fuck it.
I'm sure he feels very similar. He's like, fuck you guys. Because occasionally he'll bring it out. Like, Uncut Gems, he just is just like, hey, I'm going to bring this out. You know? Like, and he's showing in that movie, he's like, look, I can still do this. And I go make Grown Ups 3 and be like, ha ha ha, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like,
I get to do my art piece, you know, and these are kind of all tied into, again, the business end of stuff where it's like, yeah, and now he didn't produce Uncut Gems, but I'll use that as kind of the example where it's like, yeah, I'll do the studio. I have to do Grown Ups 3 for the studio.
Yeah,
but as part of the deal for doing Grown Ups 3, I get the funding to do Uncut Gems.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so there is that little bit of a give and a take for it. And so sometimes that's why you end up.
I think that's why Michael Bay has made the little bit. Like, I'm not defending Michael Bay at all, but that's why I think he's gotten into Netflix. He understood that like, people aren't gonna give him money forever for Bad Boys 3 or 4, you know, like, so he's like, give me Netflix money, you know, like, and that's what he's going for, you know, like, and I don't blame him, you know, like, because they're gonna give him the money to do the explosions, you know, like, he's gonna, you know, like,
and like he said in the epic rap battles of history, it's all about making that motherfucking money,
making that Benjamins.
That is definitely one. That might be my favorite ERB is the director's one.
Oh, it's the best. One. It's so good.
It's so funny.
Yeah, if you're a film nerd, that's the favorite one.
Yeah, it's great.
All right. Last director.
The problem is, not only did you already bring up Kevin Smith, but we already had like a
whole
Kevin
episode.
Smith spiel when we did the VSQ episode.
Gosh.
I think one that comes to mind, and shoot me, I guess, if you want, is, to a degree, I would say Zack Snyder.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure. And it's like, I think there's a lot of hope in Zack Snyder's stuff, like there's a lot of there's a good thing under most things he's doing, like even if it doesn't fully come out, you could tell he worked hard to try to do it, like even though it doesn't always work out.
Fuck Zack Snyder.
I knew you were going to be fine. I was waiting for you.
Zack Snyder single-handedly has the most disappointing movie that I have ever fucking seen in my entire life.
BVS?
Sucker Punch.
Oh, Sucker Punch.
Oh,
okay.
wait, no, come on.
So here's the
Sucker
thing.
Punch is fun.
No,
Sucker Punch is bad.
No,
It's bad.
No, it's fun.
It's terrible.
I turn my brain off. I go see Sucker
Here's
Punch.
the thing. All right, I'm gonna take you on a little trip.
Okay.
Sucker Punch releases, I don't remember what year, but
2011?
Sure. All I know is that it released on March 25th in whatever that year was. March 25th is my birthday. I am excited to see Sucker Punch.
Yeah, because girls in tiny skirts, robots, ninja swords,
This movie looks like it's going to be a bunch of batshit nonsense that I absolutely love. We just got over 300 and Watchmen, and both of those are pretty good. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed those movies. And it is such schlocky nonsense. There are actually 3 different realities happening in Sucker Punch, and the one that means the most is the one we spend the least amount of time in. And it annoys the absolute holy fuck out of me. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Sucker Punch, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis. Here it is. A girl who her mother is loaded has a stepdad that is a douche. The mother dies, and she leaves all the money to the daughters. So basically, the stepdad is like, you're going to sign over all this money to me. And she's like, no. And he's abusive. And through some weird, convoluted bullshit, she ends up shooting her sister instead of the stepdad. And so the stepdad commits her to a mental hospital and is going to have her lobotomized in like a week, right? And so the movie takes place in this girl that is going to get lobotomized in a week in a mental hospital. It then cuts to her being in a brothel, and this high roller's gonna come and do something, but they never say what. And so then she needs to, quote unquote, dance, which brings on some sort of fantasy element, and where all of this nonsense happens, and they go on some sort of fantasy quest.
I'm not saying Sucker Punch is good at all. I'm not saying...
You've had a soft spot for Sucker Punch for years.
It's like, because it's funny, it falls into the same category as Ready Player One, where you're like, man, I could have never seen this stuff visually on screen before. Is it good, though? No. You're like, but it's cool that it happened on screen, I guess. Like the DeLorean and the Iron Giant, Ready Player One. It's one of those things where you're just like, oh, cool. I never could have seen Gundams fighting, like all these people. And then you're like, but it still sucked.
Yeah, it's still not good.
It's still not good.
But, Zack Snyder's had like an infamous filmography, at least by this point. Started off pretty well with 300 and Watchmen. Like, depends on who you ask. Most people don't like his DCEU movies. I'm the one that does.
I don't blame him for the DCEU stuff as much as I blame DC themselves.
Yeah, you should know. Or WB. I feel like you gotta blame
the problem is that you look at... It's so frustrating. Because you look at the DCE... Like, DC Comics, and... they're the bright and cheery ones. Like, it's so weird because Marvel is supposed to be the more grounded, real,
relatable. These are the real people.
Yeah, the real.
And DC was always this, like, on a pillar, like, beacon of hope, and, like, it was supposed to be the men of tomorrow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, oh, what do you like, Batman? They're all dark, they're all brooding. Let's just do that for everybody. And it was just like, oh, so you don't understand the source material at all.
Yeah.
And so I blame Warner Brothers for that.
It's funny because Justice League almost feels like a Justice League comic.
But,
it's funny because it, like, gets close and misses the mark completely.
But the problem with Justice League is that it was just, like, it was too little too late to try and double back so hard.
hard.
Especially for someone who actually was interested in the direction that these movies were going. Right. But at the end of the day, like, I loved Man of Steel as just like a Superman first contact story.
Yeah.
A pretty earnest one. This is pretty much how it would go down. And it's going to rub people the wrong way because it's not the Superman you know. But I just wanted to follow up on that. I didn't want it to become the retroactive, like, first installment of, like, now a big crossover.
And I've talked about it on that movie show a bunch. And the biggest problem is that Marvel set the blueprint, right? They set the blueprint of how this is supposed to go. And Warner Brothers and DC
thought they had to fit the blueprint.
Well, they were like, we can't do that. We can't. Like, whatever we do, we can't just do, like, individual movies, team up. Individual movies, team up. We can't do it because everybody will make fun of us. And it's just like, so instead what we're going to do is we're going to introduce everybody convolutedly into the Justice League movie, and then we're going to give them their own movies.
So my argument for that is that it always just worked in the animated shows. Like before, in the animated Justice League show, it's no effort. Everyone's just there, you know? Like, and that's the problem with the DC movies is they don't act like everyone's there.
Correct.
And that's the big problem.
And that is a huge problem because the reason why the first Avengers works is because movie starts and we go.
Yep.
We have the first interaction between these people, but we all know who these people are. Mm-hmm. We didn't spend 10 minutes with Arthur Curry, like, having a conversation with Mira underwater in this weird, like, I know who you are and you know who I am, but we don't really know who each other are, and we need to know what's going on.
To be continued in the Solo movie.
Like, look, here's the deal. I'm going to be a part of this, but we're going to have our own movie that's going to flush out all of this later, but it's also not going to have anything to do with this.
But it's weird how, like, the peaks and valleys the DCU has gone through now. Because, I mean, I've been hearing, like, oh, the DCU is dead ever since BVS came out.
Yeah.
We're 8 movies in. We're 8 movies in now. Like, it's not going away right now.
It's so frustrating because they also keep taking the criticism and they're trying to Frankenstein the whole thing.
Yeah,
because it's
every single time it's annoying.
Because, like, when Batman vs Superman came out and, like, they're like, we have to, like, scrap the whole thing and kind of start over after Justice League, and it's like, but we want to keep Gal Gadot and we want to keep Harley Quinn.
We want to keep Jason Momoa.
We want to keep Jason Momoa, but then for some odd reason, even though Ben Affleck is an Academy Award winning, Best Picture winning producer,
he also has a drinking problem.
He does.
So I'm sure that is a little bit of a nightmare.
But the problem is it's just like, look, he was good as Batman.
Yeah, no,
and the fact that you're like, no, we don't want. Look, was the last movie you produced an Academy Award-winning Best Picture movie? Sure, but no, you're not going to do Batman. And it's just like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have Robert Pattinson, but is Robert Pattinson
now part of the universe?
Now part of the universe?
Matt Reeves has talked several times that it's not none of this.
I doubt it. It's just like, but
I think they're taking that vibe of
WB
Joker,
could also
like,
so easily just retroactively try to make it.
Well,
like, if it's a huge hit, they're just like, yeah, whatever, get him in the next Justice League.
Just do John Cheadle. Just Don Cheadle. Robert Pattinson comes into the next Batman movie. Hi, I'm Batman. Cool. Let's just roll with it. You know what I mean? I don't need a whole origin.
In another movie, I don't need it. And I think that's the Batman kind of understands that. Matt Reeves is a great director.
And to be honest, I think Joker probably helped with just like, look, we have different universes going on. It's fine.
Sure. But when it comes to the DCEU, it's just like you keep Frankensteining your own nonsense. Just stick with it and course correct the whole ship because it's like Birds of Prey
is a course correction to Suicide Squad.
Is a course correction, but you look at it and it's like, okay, this is a little bit more in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Amusement Mile in Gotham is an important set piece in that film, and it looks like Amusement Mile.
It looks like it.
You know, it's like that's the type of course correction you need to make. Now, also, would that movie have been way better if it was just Harley Quinn and Nightwing? Yes. Yes, it would have. Yes, it would have.
I mean, you
That
can't
movie
argue
would've
when,
also-
when you're just like, why can't we just put direct Batman family
Either
in a
that or
movie?
if it
And they're
was-
like, no, we
Either-
can never do it.
I mean-
Batman and Robin was a failure, and we're never falling for it again.
Either that or if it was an actual Birds of Prey movie.
Yeah, well, that
that's
was the
true.
problem.
That's true.
That was the problem with that movie. It was just like, it wasn't a Birds of Prey movie. It was a Harley Quinn movie. So if it was going to be a Harley Quinn
Well,
movie...
now it's Harley Quinn,
Birds.
BOP.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious that they're just like, what's the one with Tom Cruise that they just fucking changed the title three times?
Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, whatever the hell it ends up
Yeah,
calling.
like,
Depends on the
tomorrow.
person.
Until it came out, they're like, Live, Die, Repeat. Yeah,
It should have
that's
been
a
called
video game
Harley
movie.
Quinn to begin with.
That movie was pretty good.
Yeah, Tom Cruise won.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's just funny that like it was good, and same thing with Birds of Prey. Like it's good, so why are we changing things?
Yeah.
But it's all SEO.
It should have
baby.
been called Harley Quinn to begin with.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm usually not the type of person who argues misnomers. Like, I always hate the argument of just like, for a movie called Godzilla, there's barely any Godzilla in it.
Yeah.
Or any of that crap. But,
Well, no, because it's a different thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be like if the movie was called Mothra, and it was about Godzilla. Mm-hmm. It's a very different movie. It's a very different
and
movie.
as someone who loves the Birds of Prey and like loves Gail Simone's work, it's just like, I like what we have of the birds. What little time they have.
Yeah. It was a Harley Quinn movie.
I feel that.
It just the sidekicks would have been better served if it was like Dick Grayson or Tim Drake.
Nah.
But
You know.
I enjoyed it for what it was, and I'm sure, like, because they've been on and off about whether they want to make a Gotham City Sirens movie.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of dependent on how this one was taken.
I think Gail Simone's right. If you follow on Twitter, she always says it. Poison Ivy's literally the ticking time bomb that DC/WB is sitting on. It's one of those like main characters that they're just kind of like, we're not doing that yet. And you're like, that she could be bigger than Harley Quinn, you know, like
It's
so
weird.
easily.
They're so weird. Like the Arrowverse would have been better if you bit the bullet and made a Superman show and a Batman show.
But they were always cautious.
But
It's
they're
like-
so cautious. They're so cautious with those sacred cows that it hurts them, right? Whereas it's just like Spider-Man is in literally everything.
Yeah.
Marvel will put, anywhere that Marvel can put Spider-Man, they're gonna put Spider-Man. You know what I mean? And it's fine.
At a certain point, they will stop using Nick Fury and just use Spider-Man. I feel like it's just one of those things where you're like, have Spider-Man show up, like you know, like
right.
here he is.
Yeah,
Like,
and but it's like in cartoons and comics and TV shows and all this stuff, he's just everywhere. And on the DC end of things, it's like they're so afraid of the negative backlash that it's like, hey, I don't know if you know this, you guys are crushing it in two aspects: television and animated.
Yeah.
Keep the animated stuff going because you're crushing it.
Crush it.
But in the TV show, I know you canceled Arrow and Arrow's done and all that stuff, but it's like, yeah, you should have made a Batman TV show. You should have done it.
Should have done.
Instead
And
of
they were like,
trying to make Green Arrow
we
Batman.
made Gotham, and you're like, no,
That's not what I meant.
That's not what I meant.
And
None
you
of
know
this is
it.
what I meant. That was the only we were talking about Joker earlier. That was my main problem with the Joker Thomas Wayne stuff. Is it felt very like Gotham, and I was just like, fuck Gotham.
I caught the final episode of Gotham when I was at the gym. I was just on an elliptical, and it was just on. I'm like, fine. I'm not even going to put my earphones on to like watch it because the subtitles there. I'm just going to watch to see where this train track goes. I'm like, I know that costume's going to be bad. I know that costume. Oh, it looks terrible. This show was worth nothing.
Yeah.
Oh man! So thank you, Eddie, for coming on. Thank you for coming on the show. Please plug all the things you want to plug.
Yeah, so you can follow me at the Eddie McCabe on literally all social medias. I host That Movie Show, and you can find us on literally anywhere that that podcasts happen, like iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeart, everything.
Stitcher.
Spreaker, Glorknorble, all of them.
All of them.
All of them.
All right. And guys, you've been listening to The Warp Shelf. Thank you. And follow us on galaxygeek.com. Follow us on all those podcasts.
Yeah, we're also
networks.
everywhere now.
We're also everywhere. And thank you for coming on. And thank you guys for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Adios.